Hello, hi. Is it going? I can't tell what's happening over here. Okay, hi, sorry. I'm a little bit off my game. How's everybody doing? Llama Pajama P6S. Hello, nice to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you for a while. That you were part of our chat before, and I haven't seen you for a while. Hello, random old lady and boss lady and Cappy. How is everybody doing? I am feeling a bit stunned. The construction noise has stopped about half an hour ago, but I still am feeling like I've been, I don't know, it's just a lot. I just feel like, even with the white noise on, and somebody suggested Gregorian chants the other day, and I tried those today. And it does help. Like, it definitely dulls brings it down to a dull roar. But even that, right, from 7 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. is like, it's a lot. I just feel like the whole day, like I'm kind of bracing against the noise. So when it stops, I'm like, oh, where are you, Cappy? It's actually seasonally, it's a little bit warm here too, but not properly warm. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of summer either. Honestly, I like spring a lot, and I like autumn. I like spring better because we're coming into the New Mexico, yeah, so you're probably warm down there. I like the spring because it's the beginning of the nice weather more than I like the fall, which is the ending of the nice weather. But I'm not a huge fan of summer. I don't care for hot weather particularly not here where it's very hot weather is very muggy. Hi, Billie Jean. Glad you could make it. Yeah, hot. Where it's a what do you call a temperate rainforest here. So when it gets really hot, it's just incredibly muggy. I don't mind dry heat. Lots of people say that, but it's genuinely true. So yeah. So here's Nancy, looking good in her mugshot. Oh, you're very welcome. You'll have to thank Beth when you see her if she shows up, because Beth was handing out memberships like candy the other day. So I'm glad people could be here. Not that I don't offer all that much for the membership because I just haven't figured out how to do that. I don't know. I don't like the idea of pricing people out of content. So I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. So there's Nancy Brophy. Today we are going to listen to the cross-examination, which is, the direct exam was fun. Yeah, I hate humidity. It's the worst. Vancouver's a really beautiful place, but man, I don't care for the humidity at all. It just makes it impossible. It used to be easier here because it just didn't get very warm, right? It just really didn't get very warm. It was always we have very mild summers, lots of gray, rainy days and stuff, but not anymore. We're suffering with the climate change like everybody else. There's like the water table is not getting enough water anymore. Hi, Mary. So a lot of people or a lot of the trees rather that have the super deep roots are not getting the water, so they're all dying in the forest, the cedars and stuff. Yeah, so that's very depressing. Anyway, I don't want to really talk about that. I just want to. I hope everybody's having a good day, but I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I'm going to put this on to play, and I may not. It's still these antibiotics too. I may not talk as much, but I'll probably be more active in the chat. So here we go.
All right, cross-examination.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Ms. Brophy.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Back in 2018, did you carry a purse?
No.
Carry a wallet?
No.
How did you carry your critical pieces of information, like an ID and stuff like
In my bra. I know that's weird, but
That's just one of the fun pieces of information we get to learn throughout the course of this cross-examination.
so much of what I did was not aided by having a purse. So I had my phone in my bra if I needed a driver's license or a card, and I rarely had cash. So in my bra.
And you wrote this letter to Dan in 2015.
I did.
That's been referred to a couple of times. After you wrote that, did you print it?
Yes.
And what did you do with it?
I put it in an envelope, and it was a purple folder, and I put it on a desk that we shared. So if something happened and he came back and had to go through the desk, he would see it first thing.
And that was the only thing in that envelope?
Yes. Oh, no, there was probably copies of the policies in the envelope in addition, I not only did I give him the information, I gave him the policies themselves.
And how would Dan know to have looked for that letter after, if you were to pass during that time?
I figured sooner or later he would go to our desk, is what I figured. That sooner or later he would be looking for something and there would be the photo with Dan on it, and he would see it and read it and realize what he had.
Okay. So you put this letter and some policies perhaps and put them in this envelope, put it on the desk. And,
Folder.
I'm sorry, what did
purple,
I say?
You said envelope. It's a purple folder.
Okay. Purple folder. And did you write his name on it?
Yes,
okay.
In big letters.
Did you say something about a picture? Did you not say that?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it says Dan on it.
Right.
Okay. And is this a folder that closes, or like, is there a snap on it or anything like that?
Can you hold up that orange folder? Thank you. It's a folder just like this. It's a folder,
okay.
And it's purple.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
And so when you got back from your surgery,
right,
was that folder still there?
It was.
Right where you left it?
Yes.
Was there any indication to you that Dan had ever read that letter?
No. As far as I can tell, Dan never read it.
In that letter, you direct Dan to keep paying on the Americo policy because he'll get the premiums back in 9 years.
Yes, my math skills were a little iffy there.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Is your math wrong, or did you just have a typo, or what?
I'm going to tell you my math was either wrong or I had a typo. I had no idea, but it is wrong. You're absolutely right.
Because it's actually 19 years, right?
No. By that time, it was probably more like 15 years.
Okay. So probably not a typo then, because the 9 is, but he had about 15 more years that he needed to pay on.
Did.
Okay. And you knew that. You knew that about the policy.
I did.
And you also knew that if you were to get to that point where you were collecting, or I'm sorry, had the ability to collect the premiums back, you knew then that if you were to take that money back, that you'd actually have to give up the policy.
Nope.
You didn't know that?
No. I could continue paying on the policy for Dan, but I could take the money out of it.
Didn't your insurance expert testify? Did you hear him testify and say that if you were to take that money out of that policy, that you would have had to forfeit the policy?
If they said that, I didn't understand, but I can tell you this. They have a schedule in the policy that shows what happens if you have this money. For example, if Dan died when he was 78, we didn't get 100,000 back. We got 167,000 back. But if we took the 67,000 out of it, we could continue paying for the policy. Now, that's not to say it was a 20-year term. That's not to say they might not raise the premium on it, but we could continue paying for it.
You disagree with your insurance expert?
I disagree with that aspect if that's what they really said.
Okay. And this, you said, was part of a bigger retirement plan, correct?
It was?
Correct. And so, this idea that, would you agree it's pretty risky?
What is risky?
Well, the one, you have to live to be able to collect on the policy, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. And if you don't want to give up that, well, I guess you disagree with that notion that you have to give up the policy. So I guess I'll just ask you this. You agree that you paid 3 to 6 times
yes.
More for that policy than what you could have bought a similar coverage for?
I do.
I love the way she admits that she paid 3 to 6 times as much as she would have done for just an ordinary policy, as though it's some kind of like 3D chess maneuver that she made. And I was going to say the same thing about how she does this. She does this constantly throughout, looking over at her attorneys, like for guidance in how she should answer questions. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
And so,
purposefully.
And just asking, did you guys have the thought that, well, maybe we should put this money
Hi, Carolyn.
away and actually be able to access it whenever we need it, instead of risking not getting it at all. Did you have that discussion?
Okay, I need to break that down and answer your
Yeah,
question.
let me ask you in a series of questions.
Okay.
Did you have the discussion with Dan that, well, maybe we don't want to spend all this money on a policy right now. Let's pay for a cheaper policy, but let's put some money away, like as if we were putting it in to the life insurance.
We would have had that discussion if either one of us were savers. But at that point, I knew I was not a saver. So I understand this about myself. Part of the reason why I have forced savings policies is because I know I'm not a saver. And if I can put this money away where I can't get to it, we will have it later on when we need it. If we're just doing a savings account or we're investing in the stock market, I'm not good like that.
But you agree that you treated the forester's policy that also had the savings component. It's forced savings, but you were just taking the money.
I took the money out when we needed it because it was there, because why we had it was for A, retirement, but B, emergencies. And this qualified as an emergency.
Not much of a forced savings, though, if you're just taking the money out, right?
That is true.
And in fact, you didn't pay that back either.
No, we did not. But part of our plan was to pay that back. When we sold the house, we were going to overfund the policy.
Sure. And in that Dearest Dan letter, you also told Dan, or you were writing at least, that he should try to collect on a Conseco policy, even though you knew that it wasn't really enforced, correct?
No, it had been, let me go back and explain that a little differently. It had been Universal Life. Conseco had an iffy reputation at that point. We had decided to let that go. But when you have Universal Life that you can't borrow against, it continues on because the money you have in there continues to pay the policy. So I knew it was being paid, even though I had stopped paying on it. I knew there was a real good possibility it was in force.
I see. You just weren't really sure.
Right.
And when you, 4 days after Dan's murder, you called Detective Posey, is that right?
No. Dan died Saturday morning. I called Monday afternoon.
That's when you called Detective Posey regarding the insurance policy?
Right.
And that was?
I had done what they had told me. I'd called insurance companies and started the claim. And that's when we had a conversation. And then I called Holly. And then I called Detective Posey.
We'll break that down. I just
Sorry.
You're saying that was on the 4th?
I think so. I think it was that Monday.
And if your call record showed that it was actually the 6th?
It could have been.
Okay.
The call records are going to be more accurate at this point than I am.
And also on the 6th, you actually, well, during that phone call with Detective Posey, you only disclosed a $40,000 policy.
Yes, but he didn't ask me about anything else.
I understand. I don't think he even asked you about that. Isn't it true that you actually just offered that it was
That's
just a
true.
$40,000 policy?
Mm-hmm.
The smallest of all of your policies,
No, it wasn't the smallest, but it was a small policy.
besides the Life Map $2,500
Right,
policy.
but it was the smallest.
The only one you
That one.
offered to Detective Posey was the smallest policy
Yes.
during the same conversation that you're asking for a letter of exoneration.
I'm asking to see if that's something that he would have said, oh, sure, we'll do that for you. Or if he said no. I mean, I was prepared for the worst. I was prepared for him to say no.
Sure. Isn't it true that you actually talked to all your insurance policy companies
did.
that day?
I did. And not a one of them asked for that, but Forrester's.
Okay, so you called all your life insurance companies,
Mhm.
notified them of Dan's death.
Yes.
One of them asked you for a letter of exoneration.
Mhm.
You asked Detective Posey for that.
I asked if it was possible to get that.
So when did Susan Estrada get into town?
Susan got in, Dan, okay, let me think for a minute here. Susan got in on that Friday, the following Friday. So Dan died on Saturday the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. She would have gotten into town on the 8th of June.
So you would agree that she was not with you when you made that call to Detective Posey?
I would. And I don't think I think I told her about it and her memory was just off on it.
Sure. She
I
was
don't
not
think-
sitting next to you while you made that call.
No, I would think that after 4 years, her memory was just fuzzy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you telling us why she forgot or something?
I was telling you what I thought happened. I thought her memory was fuzzy on what happened.
Based on your work history and Dan's work history,
Right.
would you expect Dan's Social Security income to be higher than yours?
Oh, we already knew it was. Social Security sends you a statement, I think every quarter, and they tell you if you work till this age, it'll be this much. If you work till this age, it'll be this much. We knew his was a lot higher.
And when Dan could have started collecting that at 65?
He could have started collecting at 62,
Right.
but we decided not to do it
Until when?
until he was 70 when we got the maximum benefit out of it.
I see. But you chose to draw yours sooner.
I did.
You started drawing yours at 65?
I know. I started drawing mine at either 66 or 67. I'm not sure which one we decided on. It might have been 66. No, I think it was 67 that I started drawing it.
If Dan had started drawing at the time that he died, what would he have been able to collect?
I don't know.
But it was more than yours.
It was a lot more than mine. You know, he was employed and I was self-employed. And if I declared a loss in my company one year, and believe me, in 2002, 2003, after 9/11, I had losses. And if I declared a loss, then Social Security was also part of that, and you didn't have to pay. So my Social Security was a lot less than his was.
Okay, so I do have it speeded up a little bit, right? So it does sound like she's sort of barking out these responses. Yeah, this is the prosecution. This is the cross-examination, Little Whiskers. But I still find, like, I'm not sure how to say it exactly, but like her very sort of businesslike, matter-of-fact attitude towards all this, I guess that she thinks that that is coming across as this kind of no nonsense grasp of what their financial situation was. Like she had some clear understanding of, you know, all of the ups and downs of it, but like from the testimony of the financial experts, it's very clear that she didn't, right? What is the most annoying thing about her? Yeah, like I don't know how, like, this I don't know how to exactly describe this attitude that she has. But it is so far from being, yeah, it's like she's holding court. I think that's a good way to describe it, right? It's like rather than being kind of interrogated, it's like she thinks, hi Lynn TCP, it's like she thinks that she's in a salon, you know, with other intellectuals, and they're all kind of, everybody's on an equal footing here kind of thing. You know what I mean? And she's not on equal footing. She's on trial for intentional homicide. It's just such a bizarre stance, I feel. Yeah, I mean, she kind of is, right? She's a know-it-all. She's condescending. That's it, right? It's that she's the smartest person in every room, and yet I don't think she's not highly educated by any stretch, right? But yeah, it's the holding court. I think that's the best way. That's a good description of it, Mary. Anyways, I know you all agree, but
Isn't it true that if Dan's, after he died, you could actually collect his Social Security instead of your own?
I'm not sure exactly how that works. I know that's the theory, but I think
yeah,
he had to have claimed it first before I could have claimed it for me. You know what I'm saying? If he hasn't claimed it, then I can't come in and claim it. But I could be wrong on that. You know, Social Security is like Medicare. It's 8 million rules that are secretly hidden in a mayonnaise jar somewhere.
You hadn't done any research on that, even though you guys were approaching or looking at retirement planning?
Yeah, but we weren't looking at retirement planning where Dan was dead.
Right.
You know, that wasn't part of the plan. You know, the plan was he was going to take Social Security at 70.
And when were you actually planning on selling the house? When were you, before Dan died, what was the plan for when the house was going to go on the market?
It was, okay, I was aiming for September. He said, I want to garden one more year around the edges while they finish it up. So he was aiming for later in the fall.
Okay, so you guys agreed that fall of 2018.
Yes. But later in the fall probably meant October, not December.
Sure. What does downsizing mean to you?
Well, we had a 4-bedroom house and there were 2 of us. We didn't need that much space. We had a 4-bedroom house with a full basement. And, you know, yes, I think Dan needed some sort of space for his stuff, but we didn't need that kind of, we needed a good kitchen and, real frankly, a couple of bedrooms. And I like a nice bath, but other than that, I'm really pretty flexible.
And you had started to look at some properties?
No, we had started to locate properties. We hadn't looked at them. You know, we just said, look, I found some things in this area.
Okay.
The thing for me, I think, is the thing that's so off-putting is she's talking about him like her tone doesn't have any kind of sense of nostalgic longing for the, you know, the time that she spent planning retirement with her soulmate of 23 years, right? She's talking so matter-of-factly. It's like almost like she's talking about someone who never died almost. Right? It's like it's the wrong tone for the circumstances again, I guess.
What kind of price range were you looking in?
Well, what we wanted to do is be able to pay it completely off. And we thought we would have about $400,000 to do that with. So we were probably looking in the 350 price range, somewhere like that.
And you're saying out in the kind of halfway to the coast?
Well, Dan liked Delilah's property, and it is east of Banks. It is west of Banks. It's toward the coast. I like Vernonia. Vernonia is this charming, charming little town. It has a lake. It has this downtown that on the light posts, they have these metal cutouts of bears messing with honey. It has flat land. It has no trees. I liked Vernonia. Now, Vernonia was a little further on and to, I'm going to say, the northwest, but it still would have been a straight shot down 26 pretty much.
How many times did you visit Vernonia?
Oh, I was in Vernonia all the time. I had clients there. I liked the town. When we started talking about there, I'd gone down there 2 or 3 times and looked around at the houses and the neighborhoods and what we could get. So yeah, I was in Vernonia a fair amount.
When you were going to sell your house, would you agree that you had about a little under $250,000 owed on your mortgage?
I would think that's right.
And you did sell your house later that year, is that correct?
No, I sold it the next year. I sold it in 2019.
Oh, when in 2019?
I'm going to say February, March, somewhere in there, maybe as late as April.
And it sold for about $565,000.
Yes.
So after fees and realtor fees and all that, would you agree that you probably would make a little less than $250,000?
I didn't see the settlement statements on that, so I really don't know.
Okay. But that wouldn't, okay, no, we'll move on then. Now, you said part of the reason of selling the house was basically you don't necessarily want stairs anymore.
Yes.
But at the time that Dan died and the time you guys were deciding to sell the house, you two were both relatively healthy still.
Yes.
Could still do the stairs just fine.
I was struggling with arthritis in my knee, but yeah.
Okay, but you didn't, you still had your bedroom upstairs.
We did.
You didn't move down to the main floor to deal
No.
with that. I was a little confused about the discussion of the tiny houses.
Oh,
Okay, so I just wanted to address this little conversation here about Docket Decoder's latest video. So on a couple of days ago when I did a video, Lil Whiskers left me a comment saying, hey, have you seen Docket Decoder's latest video? And I was like, oh, no, I haven't. And I like him, right? So I went and checked and I could not find this video that she was talking about. And then the next day, she left me another comment about the same video saying, oh, hey, that video was taken down, but now it's up again. But the comment that she left about the video has then disappeared from my comment section. So I don't know what's going on there, but that seemed really weird because the content is about hidden true crime. And yeah. So he just did his effort is to do a kind of a timeline and, encapsulation of the hidden true crime story so that people who are just coming into it can go and watch the video and get a kind of an overview of the whole story, because there's so much and so many threads and so much stuff going on that it's difficult for people to get the whole story. They sort of get it in bits and pieces. And yeah, he's done a good job. I always like his videos. He's just a really thoughtful guy, and he does good content and he works hard at it. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was really weird that like why did that comment disappear? I don't know. Like, I have it set so that you can put links and hashtags and stuff in the comments, so it shouldn't have been automatically held or anything. And also, I saw it, and I even I liked it or something. I don't think I replied to it, but I definitely liked it, and then it just disappeared. So I don't know if that means anything, but there's certainly. And also, I was listening to Kresha again Kresha does these great live streams, but they tend to be super long, and I get lost. But she is also kind of following up the connections between Lauren Matthias and the LDS Church and the media that is sort of allowing her to kind of face all of this out without losing. They're back up to 325,000 subscribers or something like that. So it's still kind of a going concern. I had thought to myself, I never did a response to the 9-hour live, and I was like, maybe I should go back and re-look at that. Like, maybe if we have like a second kind of push effort to expose these guys, maybe we can get some action on it. Anyway, I thought that was very interesting that A, the video disappeared, and B, the comment about the video also disappeared. The video reappeared, the comment did not.
So
I watched it and I thought it was very good, and he's doing a part 2, which will, I assume, also be good.
whose idea was that?
It was Dan's.
Okay.
Dan, who needs more room than anybody I know, said, "Oh, we could live in a tiny house." No, we couldn't. But his fantasy life, like mine, is going to be an expat. Dan's was we could live in these little tiny houses, and that would work fine for us. And I thought, smaller than our kitchen now, which Dan was billing out of. No, we couldn't live like that. And the other thing is you have to be in really good health to live in a tiny house, because most of the bedrooms are loft-like bedrooms, and you have to climb up this ladder, night and day to get up there. Plus, I mean, real frankly, once you hit that 40 age group, you and I both know that we're up more in the middle of the night than we ever wanted to be.
I think, yeah, she's the giddy widow. Yeah, the gay divorcee. She's the giddy widow. I would agree with that. Yeah, it does seem like she hated him. I think she was probably very jealous of him, is my guess. My feeling is that she was jealous of him, and that she hated him because she was dependent on him, because she didn't have the skills that he had, and she didn't have the compassion and the things that made him a genuinely beloved by his community sort of a character. So yeah, I think she was resentful of him and she hated him, and that she could, by murdering him, she could not only end up with a lifestyle that she wanted, but she could also get all of the pity and the compassion and the love and the help in dealing with the mess that she made, help with the yard. And we're not talking small help with the yard, right? That was a big deal. They needed heavy equipment to deal with it and stuff, right? And it ended up all being taken care of by people who all leapt in to help her, because they were all solid friends of Dan, who jumped in to help his widow when they believed that he was a victim of whatever, some random murder. So yes, I would absolutely agree. I think she hated his guts. It's very typical of these people that they absolutely hate the people that they are most reliant on for sustenance and support and supply and all the rest of it. And part of it is like just even being reliant on someone for supply. It makes them mad, right? Because they want to be in control of everything. And they can't be in control of everything because they absolutely need other people to get supply. So they're not as free to kind of just turn their back on you as they would have you believe.
And I don't want to go up and down the stairs or the ladder 18 times in the middle of the night.
So was he joking or?
No, he was serious, but it was a fantasy. It was like lots of things. It was like my wanting to go to Portugal. This would be a fabulous idea. And so, we sing and dance to the other one, and the other one pokes a hole in that balloon, and says, that's not going to work for us.
So his ideal situation was that he would have his own tiny house and you would have your own.
No, he would have a house for junk, and then he would live in mine where it would be.
That laugh is just so cringe, And she thinks it's charming, right? She thinks that she's coming across as this charming, giddy widow who it was so. She keeps implying, and she may even have said it, or she may say it at one point, that I knew Dan better than he knew himself. That whole thing of like, oh, I just knew him so well that it was just this silly pipe dream of his. And she thinks that she's coming off as charming by doing that. But really what she's doing is talking shit about the victim, right? Like he was too stupid to even know himself, right? Just appalling, appalling, appalling. And just absolute evidence of narcissism to my mind, because she has no idea. She thinks that she's charming. Look at her face. She thinks that she's, holding court and that everybody's in her thrall.
Be tight.
So the plan was to subdivide this property.
Yes.
You and Dan discussed, was it to, I wasn't quite clear on this. You weren't going to divide it into 3 lots like your neighbor, correct?
We didn't think we could. We thought we needed 2 lots to make it work.
Why did you conclude that you couldn't do that?
Well, we could have done that, but here's the thing. In order to bring the driveway all the way through, sitting right in the middle of that's a garage. So we have to tear this garage down, which isn't a great loss, except the house in front now no longer has a garage. So now we have to figure out what to do. But if we'd brought it all the way down and only divided it in half, we could have put a garage back here with a driveway that turned into it.
So ultimately that was the plan.
Sorry, with what money were they going to do all this, right? It's just so crazy, the wrong tone. We got to give that one to Suma. Jen came up with the giddy widow, and Suma came up with the wrong tone.
Plan.
Ultimately, but it was one of many plans, I would say.
Okay. And you reached out to Richard Frymark to sort of start that process. And
no, I reached out not to start the process, but to consult with Richard, who I've always thought had great ideas. And Richard then told me how to start.
Sure. I guess that's what I meant. I apologize.
Okay.
To consult. And then he gave you some names of some people to contact.
He did.
And did they provide you some information on how to?
They did, but we never set up an appointment. We talked about it, and they said, when you get closer, you get the backyard cleaned up, give us a call, and now we'll look seriously at it.
And who did you talk to out of the people that he told you to call?
K and something engineering. I have it written down somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a great point, Mary. Mary says she makes it sound like they had all these plans, but I don't think they had a single one. He is just about to start taking that apart right here. She's like, oh, we called this people. We had all these plans. We were thinking this and that. And it turns out she never literally talked to anybody. Like, they checked, right? She just like threw out these names and stuff, but they checked. And lo and behold, she's a lying sack of lies, just like so many of these people.
But I called whoever he recommended, and he'd even given me a name of a guy.
You heard him testify and rattle off a few names of people that he told you to call.
Yeah.
When one of those people is one of the people you called.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what kind of information did he give you?
To clean up the property, and then we'd look at it. You know, there was nothing they could do with the condition it was in at that point.
I could be wrong. Is that K&S Engineering? Is that right, or something like that?
Yeah.
Or was it K and N? It was K and somebody.
Okay.
You know.
I'm not going to hold you to it. It's just ringing in the top of my head. So, but K and something Engineering. Nonetheless, one of the names that he gave you. Okay. Is that Nick?
You know, she crossed her arms there. She changed her whole position, crossed her arms, like I feel like she was lying there about all of that. And it was obvious. And then she does the whole slinging the arm over the back of the chair is one of my favorite Nancy Brophy moves.
White? Does that sound familiar? Or is it one of the other names?
It could have been. I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm guessing.
Okay. Well, let's not do that. I'm just seeing if you remember.
So,
did you talk to anybody else out of that group of people that he had given you?
No, because once they said clean up the yard, that was where we focused our energy.
Okay. And when was that again?
You know, once again, I'm guessing. I would have to go back and look at the date, but we talked to Richard about this.
Hi, Rombo, he dry.
In at least 2017, but it could even have been as early as 2016.
Okay. And it was after that conversation with him that you decided to go and make sure that you were on the deed?
No, Richard pulled up our information and he said, Nancy, you're not on the deed. There was no making sure. He said, you need to do this. And he sent me paperwork to do it.
Yeah, and maybe my question was bad. It was after that you went to correct that.
Right.
Okay. Based on the information you were getting from Mr. Frymark.
Right.
You said that Dan had fallen in love with Delilah Marvell's property. But hadn't he only been out there one time?
Yes, but he walked the property. It's 80 acres. He and Delilah were friends. Delilah had been his student. Delilah had come back and do mushroom hunting, but he realized it was a type of property that he could have made work. So maybe it wasn't that he was in love with her property per se, as it was the type of property and the location that he could have made work.
You said you weren't looking at homes yet, but had you get a realtor to talk about options yet?
No,
What about to put your house on the market?
no. I mean, I talked to the realtor who lives down the block and he gave me some advice, but once again, the advice was clean up the backyard.
And that realtor was Paul Johnston,
Yes,
and he's a realtor neighbor of yours?
yes.
And did you and Dan and him talk about that?
I would say if he and Dan talked, Paul had been a chef and Paul is also a serious gardener. In fact, his entire front yard is a garden. And I knew Dan secretly envied that, but I was holding on to the front yard. But no, what they would have talked about, I'm betting, rather than what the property's worth, is how did you grow this? How did you make that? Dan made a Worcestershire sauce. It was really, really good. He made a Tabasco sauce that Paul made one that was similar. And so, it was that kind of exchange of information,
You saw them having those types of conversations?
Yeah. I mean, Paul's out all the time and they're walking the dogs and, we're walking the dogs. Dan is. And yeah, and during that, I know we shared the habanero sauce with him, and I know we shared the Northwest sauce, the Worcestershire sauce.
Did Paul ever come over to the house and actually look at the yard?
Not until after Dan died.
And I know you said that they had conversations, but mostly around probably food.
Sorry, I don't know what I did there. Sorry. If I try to hit the @ key and I'm not in the comment thing, it does other things and removes things. What the hell is that pose, right? That's the, hey man, we're just hanging out here together at the salon with us with all our degrees and our theories of the case. I think that's what that is. Yeah, sorry. So
Yeah. Did you never saw them, or you were never around when they talked about the property, selling the property?
No.
As part of your retirement plan, you said that $35,000 was meant to catch up on the mortgage because you guys had fallen behind,
Right.
and get the yard ready.
Right.
Why didn't you guys use that to pay down your high interest credit cards?
Because Dan was already doing that. If you recall, when Ms. Crouch testified, she testified that he had already started on that plan.
Right.
With the Avamere money. The Avamere money was for that. This money was for the house.
Right.
she does a lot of the hand gestures explaining things. Yeah, right. Boss lady says she's way too comfy on the stand. Yeah, it really is that. I think that's a great way to describe it. A famous author giving a lecture. Yeah, she's very comfortable. It's the grandiosity, isn't it? That's what it is that's so annoying about her. That's exactly what I was referencing before, but didn't have the right word for it. But of course, it's grandiosity.
But
And trading one interest loan for another interest loan wasn't really working. We needed to pay off the credit cards. That's absolutely true. But we needed to get the house in shape.
what was the interest on the credit card?
I don't know.
It's about 15%.
I don't know because Dan paid them and he paid attention. And but I think one of them was higher than the other.
What was the interest on the 401k loan?
It wasn't very high at all. It was a really low interest. I was kind of surprised by that, but I can't tell you exactly what it was.
So let's just hypothetically,
Okay.
if Dan's credit card was 15%,
It was probably 5 on the 401k
right?
loan.
So would you agree
Mhm.
that it would make more sense to pay off a higher interest credit card and then just save that money or use that for something else?
I would agree if, in fact, we hadn't already had a plan in place and working on it.
Dreamhorse 347 says, my favorite part is when she has no idea they can follow her movements on security cameras. That is truly a grand moment. My favorite moment is when the prosecutor walks her ever so carefully into that into the trap with the ghost with the gun. The wrong insurance agent. She's hitting them out of the park. Nice one, Lynn. She's a romance novelist, and she literally wrote an article, Little Whiskers, no joke. She literally wrote an article called How to Murder Your Husband. And the joke about the wrong tone and the wrong insurance agents and everything is because her series of romance novels is called Wrong Never Felt So Right. And each of the titles is something like the wrong husband, the wrong brother, the wrong Navy SEAL, the wrong doctor, the wrong whatever. As the heroine, gets tangled up with some steamy whatever. And just to say, weirdly enough, I looked her all up on Wrong Testimony. I looked her all up on looked up her books on Goodreads, and she gets actually pretty decent reviews. Like not screamingly good, but say out of 85 reviews, she'll have like a 3.8 out of 5 score, which is actually not as bad. I was expecting to find like Corey Richens type scores of, 1 and 1, basically. Yeah, can you imagine being her? The wrong cellmate, I think, is probably going to be. Oh, yes, wrong. Cathedral.
We heard a
Right.
lot about the yard.
Oh,
A lot about the yard. We got a little conflicting information
okay.
about who actually cleaned it.
Yes. I heard that myself.
What do you have to say about? What do you have to say about that?
James Denny did the heavy duty work.
Hmm.
Trust me, he had the tractor. He did the heavy duty work. But Susan and her boyfriend did a lot. They called it something else, but I thought it was a ditch witch. And they pulled up a lot of the blackberries. So it was a combination effort that everybody's laying claim to, and I don't care. Fine. As long as it got done, I didn't need to, I could have handed out ribbons. You got this, you got that, but that was just sarcastic. Ignore that. What I would really say is everybody worked hard on it. Everybody deserved credit for it.
Sounds like you had a lot of help.
I did.
Guessing, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that help was maybe available to you before Dan died as well.
No, not in the way you're talking about.
Which way am I talking about?
Well, I mean, I cannot imagine having 35 friends drop by to help you pack when Dan's alive. I just can't even imagine they would think that was a fun idea. Now, I would tell you that before Dan died, I had friends who came over and helped me organize. Linda Smith is a librarian, and I can tell you that our books never looked better than when she came over and did them. I had other people who would help me with organizational things, but no, I don't see 35 people. I couldn't even imagine Dan thinking that would be a good idea. Having 35 people come through our house to help us pack.
Just
No.
to be clear, what you're saying right now is what you think that I was going to ask you.
Oh, yeah. So perhaps I've jumped the gun, and I believe my lawyers have suggested to me I not do that. What I thought you were asking was, did I have that same type of help available to me before Dan died? And I thought you were talking about the 35 people who helped me pack. Is that not what you were talking about?
I was just going to ask you if you called Jack Brophy to come help you with something, would he do it?
Oh, Jack Brophy was, you have no idea how much help he was. If I had an issue with something, he would come and help me. Jack was great for us. You couldn't have asked for a better father-in-law.
So literally the answer to that question was yes.
You had a lot to do to get ready to sell that house, right?
I did.
Besides the yard, what was it that you were doing
12 times
to get ready to sell the house?
It was beyond the yard. It was also the basement. It was also the garage. It was also the packing. It was down to the point that you could look to see what actually needed to be done on the house in terms of repairs to have the house ready.
So what of that were you doing to get ready to sell? And I'm talking about before Dan died.
Oh, before Dan died, we were going through areas and cleaning up. For example, bathroom drawers, the simple, stupid stuff that manages to grow like mushrooms in there. But we were working on it. We just weren't pushing it as hard as we would have been.
Even though you're planning on putting it on the market in a few months?
Yes.
Or you agree that you've
Oh, that's awesome.
basement was full,
The basement was full.
garage was full.
The garage was full.
Sounds like the rest of the house was full.
Love that.
Not in the same way.
So what you had done up to the point of Dan's death to prepare to sell the house was have the yard worked on, and you cleaned out some bathroom drawers.
No, I mean, we talked seriously about, real frankly, we probably had 1,000 books. We went through our books. We discussed what we needed to do about those. And in the end, we that at all. What we did was I donated them to the library.
They didn't have a plan to sell the house, just in case any of you are unaware. Hi, Cadence Chrome 4783. Nice to see you. It's her blasé conversation over coffee cake demeanor. This is what we were saying. She's on trial and could not care less that Dan is dead. What a piece of work. That's exactly what we were saying, right? It's the wrong tone. We were saying, like, this is the wrong tone for being on the stand testifying in your own first trial. I absolutely love that Rombo, what was it? Kakelen in Dutch. I think that's awesome. What's Mary saying here? According to Veriscope, when people say, I can tell you, you have to ask yourself, what can't they tell me or won't? Yeah, that's actually a very good point, right? She does a lot of that. I can tell you this. That's what I thought, that I had that exact same thought. Oh, before Dan died? Oh, no problem. No emotion at all. It's like she's talking about a yard sale. Yeah, you're exactly right. I'm Kaylin over here. You guys are funny. Okay, carry on with Nancy. Nan Bro.
We were working on things. We were going through things that we regarded as important to us, but not necessarily something somebody else wanted. We had a booth at one of the garage sale places, and we started hauling stuff over there and selling it through the garage sale places. And that's how we ended up getting the storage building to begin with, was through the garage sales place.
And after Dan died, your plans for moving, I know there's mention of a condo. I think your attorney asked you about the condo.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying that wasn't an idea in your head until after Dan had died.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And did you have any thoughts of moving to Arizona or Texas or Nevada, anything like that?
No, those places are hot. I don't know anybody in Arizona or Nevada. I know too many people in Texas.
You planned on staying in the area?
Not necessarily, but I wouldn't have moved someplace south.
Where were you going to move?
I have friends in Colorado, and I might have considered that. I always liked living in Colorado.
Colorado.
I think there's been a lot of testimony, and I'm assuming you'll agree, that Dan was a really beloved member of the community,
Yes, he was.
held in high regard.
Yes, he did.
Would you agree that his death?
I would think that this might be a time to be feeling and expressing some emotion, but she's very matter of fact.
Was a devastating blow to the entire community.
I would.
Everybody loved Dan, right?
As far as I know.
Yeah.
I certainly did. But I would have people come up to me all the time and say, "You're Chef Brophy's wife?" I love Chef Brophy. And I said, "Me too."
Right.
Right? This is exactly what we were talking about. Yeah, the arm over the back of the chair, right? It is so freaking disrespectful when she's talking about her dead husband who she gunned him down in cold blood. Yeah. And I think that it's Billy, I think that it's okay. Lost my track because I'm reading and trying to think at the same time. So that's typical of me. Billie Jean says, "Yelai" is how the word "she's laughing" sounds in Greek. It's somehow, yeah. It's that nonchalant, right? Oh, well, yeah. What I was going to say is that I remember now is that, and he knows this too. I am absolutely certain that the prosecutor knows this, right? That it pissed her off that everybody would come up to her and go, "Oh, are you Chef Brophy's wife?" Right? Because she doesn't want to be Chef Brophy's wife. She wants to be Nancy Brophy, romance author. And she was not beloved in the community in the way that he was.
You're talking about before.
Before.
And then after, outpouring of love and support for this man.
Yes. And he deserved every bit of it.
Is it fair to say that there's numerous qualities that Dan had that you admired?
Yes.
And that he admired about you?
Yes.
In some ways, were you even envious of the way that people looked up to him? And
Oh, no. Oh, no. I can remember a dinner that Karen and I and Dan went to, And we all sat down at the table. I think it was back when Hall Street Grill was.
She's just going to talk about how much she wasn't jealous of Dan, but I think that we could describe this entire cross-examination as that, right? Is that she is so eager to be to tell her version of things that she has no idea what's coming her way and see it coming. Yeah, Dan, yeah, exactly. I mean, she wouldn't have had the help without him, his death.
Was still in business, and appetizers came out, and we all looked at each other and said, we didn't order anything. And the person putting it down said, no, the guys in the kitchen saw Chef Brophy come in and they wanted him to try this appetizer plate. It was nothing to go to dinner with Dan and have the chef come out of the kitchen and sit down and say, you know, we're thinking about changing our menus and here's what we're thinking about doing. What do you think of that? That was not envious. That was proud. You know, I was delighted that people thought so highly of this man, and with reason. He was smart, and he gave them his full attention and gave them his best possible answer. That was never even a minor irritation for him.
Do you think the way that people thought of Dan and treated him, that they then transferred that to you as well?
There was some of that, yes. I thought that I got some of that as well, and that the fact that when I had a catering company and he talked to his class about my catering company, that my catering company gained a better reputation also as a result.
Is there anything that you did yourself in the community? Well, let me ask you this. Did you think that you were held in high regards in the community as well?
Yes, but not in the same way.
Did that make you jealous?
Oh, no. Oh, no. That made me proud that, you know, we were a couple who went together. There was no jealousy there. First off, Dan was so humble that being jealous would have been just completely out of the picture. I mean, this was a guy who was, because people felt that way. This was a man who was quietly pleased. But no, I was never jealous that he was like that.
I assume he wasn't jealous of you either.
I can't imagine why he would be, you know. But no, he talked about me to his classes, and he had a joke that I was management. Let me tell you a story, and I think this kind of sums it up. Dan was co-teaching with another instructor, and the other instructor was whining because he said it's so hard to teach to cook with your wife because they don't understand mise en place, and so mise en place really is get your stuff together before you start cooking. That's a translation I'm sure the French would roll their eyes at. But they turned to Dan and they said, well, you don't have that problem because your wife is culinarily educated. And Dan said, I don't have that problem for another reason. And they said, what is that reason? And he said, my wife doesn't cook. And so I think they spoke kind of slowly to him in case he wasn't catching on, and said, your wife owns a catering company. How can you say she doesn't cook? And he said, my wife hires people to cook. My wife could close the deal. And that.
Interesting how the story about Dan being so beloved in the community and her not being jealous of that ends up in a story about her.
That was the first time that I thought he actually understands completely what it is that I do. And there was no jealousy there. There was pride, you know. And yeah, I never cooked a meal in 25 years. So 24 years, 10 months, whatever.
She thinks that's a point of pride, that she went to culinary school and she ran a cooking school, and in 24 years of marriage, she never once cooked a meal for her husband. She thinks that's a point of pride.
That's the end of the story.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry.
What did you normally order from Starbucks?
Sorry, I hope everybody caught that, where the prosecutor goes, is that the end of the story? He does that multiple times. He just lets her sink herself. It's really awesome.
Oh, Venti non-fat 2 equal latte. He ordered a chai tea latte. You know, we had our drinks.
Did Dan know your order?
Oh, yeah.
Great story, Nancy. Wow.
Did he often go to Starbucks in the morning to get your
He did.
coffee? Was that really the routine?
That was really the routine.
You would wake up, stay in bed, he'd bring you Starbucks.
Even when we were on vacation, he would go out and find coffee for me. And even if we were in a foreign country, you know, that was our routine. And he would come back and
That was our routine. I would do nothing and he would serve me. That was our routine. Yes, she's well, she's delightfully entertaining. I'll give her to her.
I would get up and get dressed and drink coffee.
That every day or most days?
Most days, you know. He was a tea drinker, and so he drank Lapsang Soussong. And Lapsang Soussong is a strong smoky tea. And I love this about him. He drank that because he read a book by James Michener called Centennial. And in it, they talked about how the Scottish traders drank the smoky tea. And Dan was so interested in it, he went out and got some and tried it and liked it. Now, how can you not love a guy who has chosen a literary reference for his tea? You know, we were a team.
Is anybody else reminded of Sarah Boone saying to Peter Guntho in her breathless voice that she loves a man who knows what a quiver is? Ugh, gross. These people are gross.
In the morning that Dan died, you expected him to have a cup of his tea.
I did.
You told that to the police?
I did.
That was true.
Yes.
Carried it pretty much in the same cup?
Yes. We had a number of those cups. He could change them out.
I don't want to jump too far ahead, but the idea that somebody had maybe gone to Starbucks that morning, maybe not, I don't know. Do you recall back? Did you have a Starbucks at any time that morning?
I did.
Just don't know how you got it.
It was part of my routine. That's all I can tell you. I don't remember it. I just know that it was part of my routine.
Could Dan have brought it to you?
At that point, no. He had live fire that day. He would never have stopped to do something like that when his day was already going to be as packed as it was.
You knew about that live fire?
I did.
We'll talk about that in just
Okay.
She was really super thoughtful, right? What she's saying is that it was probably her that went and got the coffee that morning because she knew that he was really busy that day. So she stuck her little credit card in her bra and she zipped on over to Starbucks by herself because she didn't want to, she was helping out. She was supporting Dan in the routine. Yeah.
You testified that you read an article regarding ghost guns or gun build kits, and you found yourself on the website searching around. You're saying you bought
story. When I read that article in the paper about this guy, and all of a sudden I knew how I could twist it and make it into a story. Ideas come, out of the blue, and when they come sailing by, you write them down so you don't forget them, and then sometimes you act on them.
And that was November.
Sometime in November of 17.
You read the article, started doing research,
Mm-hmm.
and you visited the Ghost Guns website several times without purchasing anything.
That's true.
And what were you searching for on the Ghost Guns website?
Research.
What were you looking for?
I was looking. Keep in mind, I know nothing about guns at this point. I know nothing about guns, and so what I was trying to do, if I'm going to write a story on building a gun, I got to learn a lot about guns in the time frame that I have. I cannot be the person who knows nothing and write a story anybody would believe.
Okay.
I find it really off-putting for her to speak to the prosecutor like that, like telling him to keep in mind. I think there's other ways that she could have phrased that that didn't involve her sounding like she's instructing the prosecutor. Because again, the arena that she's in, it's not appropriate for her to be holding court and giving instructions to the prosecutor.
And were you other research online regarding ghost gun build kits?
Not that I remember. I was pretty happy with the Ghost Gun site, and I know there were other sites that did similar things, but the Ghost Gun site made it seem simpler than some of the others.
Okay. And you felt that it provided you some information on how the build would occur?
Yes.
Were there plans or anything on there?
What do you mean exactly? Plans? You mean like architectural plans, like plans that show like when you're putting IKEA furniture together plans?
I guess. I don't know.
Not that I saw.
Oh God.
And so I guess what you're saying is then when you decided to purchase one, you just thought that it was going to be easier to build.
I leap into the water first. Yes. Dan's our researcher in that regard.
You are a researcher, or you're not?
No, I said that backwards. I'm a person who, once I have an idea, tends to leap forward. Dan, once he has an idea, tends to research it to death. And then the chickens are a perfect example of this. You know, he would read to me at night from the romantic books called Chickens in Your Backyard or Chicken Tractors. But when we got chickens, Dan had a whole plan for how they were going to work. If I had thought, hey, chickens would be fun, we would have had a plan, build it as you go plan. He was just a planner and I was not.
Pretty sure she says the exact opposite thing at some point about how he was a planner, or she was a planner and he was not.
So were you researching for a book or not?
I'm sorry, did I go off target there? I was researching for a book.
Okay, so Little Whisker says where is it? Yeah, Little Whisker says, I'm a little amazed the judge keeps letting her go on and on. It's weird. I don't think, hi Jem, nice to see you. I don't think that, and now I don't know this again, but I don't think that it's up to the judge, right? I think it's up to the other counsel to object, and then the judge rules on the objection. The judge doesn't, I'm not 1,000% on that. I'm not even 100% on that, but I think that's why.
But I wasn't researching beyond here. Let me see if I can say this simpler than I'm doing it. I was researching for a book, but it didn't occur to me that putting the ghost gun together would be as complicated as it was. What occurred to me was, hey, here's this system I can use. And when, now that you mention it, when I got the ghost gun in this little case, there was instructions in there. I'm fairly sure. I'm not sure now that I said that. Sorry.
Had you finished your answer? All right, we are now at 4:45, so let's break for today and resume again at 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, we'll go off that's all right.
So she's going to have a new outfit. Hang on.
Point. It's on a whole different.
I'll get her back here in the beginning.
It is true that nobody actually told you.
But I did want to give you that heads up now.
Okay,
I will
so this
say,
is the next morning, carrying on with the cross-examination from yeah, right. That's the other an excellent point that I actually completely overlooked, is that it's cross-examination and her attorney would have to object to her own client going on and on. And also, I mean, it seems like, yeah, I mean, they're very, I don't think that the judge can intervene like that, right? I think the judge has to, the prosecutor was happy to let her do it even during the direct, right? The prosecutor did not interrupt more than like a couple of times throughout all the several hours that she was on the stand, and she was doing exactly what she's doing now, which was holding court and going on and going down rabbit holes and stuff. I mean, her lawyer had to kind of redirect her and reel her in a few times, but there were not objections from the prosecutor, like, objection, Your Honor, relevant, objection, Your Honor, you know, not answering the question, that kind of stuff. Like, he just let her go. Yeah, the judge just rules on objections, right? This is how I understand it. Thanks for that, Dream Horse.
certainly you can anticipate that we'll be in here on Friday, the first Friday that will actually be in the courtroom. So with that, Mrs. Brophy, let's have you retake the stand.
Does that work? Okay.
And you're still under oath, so we won't have you retake the oath. We'll just have you have a seat. and remove your mask when you're ready. And then we'll continue with Mr. Overstreet's cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Brophy, I want to start. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, the prosecutor is Mr. Overstreet. I always forget his name, but he's very good.
I want to start just clarifying something from yesterday
Okay.
that I believe you testified to. You said when you got downtown later that morning, June 2nd, that you kind of figured what was going on based on how people were reacting around you. But it is true that nobody actually told you that it was Dan that had been killed until Detective Posey, correct?
Yes.
And that was during that interview.
Yes.
But you stated that Karen called you before you went into that interview.
Yes.
Dan's mother, Karen.
Yes.
And that you told her that it was Dan and that he was dead.
I just want to comment on the fact that I haven't heard any objections yet here in the cross, and there was like 2 in the whole direct. She looks really tired, and I am assuming that she had a terrible night's sleep, tossing and turning, going over in her head her performance on the stand and wondering how she came across, because she looks really tired.
Dead.
Yes.
Based on the fact that you thought that Dan had been killed.
It was more than think.
But you hadn't been told.
Sorry, I just interrupted there, and you guys may have missed what he's saying to her, which is that she told Dan's mom that he was dead before she had been informed of his death.
I had not been told, but I had not heard from him. All of his friends avoided looking at me, and the police officers knew who I was before I got there, and one police officer hugged me. This is not good news I'm going to hear.
What if you were wrong?
Then I would have called Karen and said, happy days, I was wrong. And Karen and I would have celebrated, and we would have laughed, and we would have had family jokes about this for 20 years, and it would have been much, much better than it turned out.
Stated you bought this ghost gun build kit and you realized you couldn't put it together.
No, I realized it was more intricate. I didn't realize I couldn't put it together. It was more intricate than I thought it would be.
And based on what?
Based upon the fact that it was supposed to be few parts, and I thought it was a few too many parts.
What steps did you take to actually try to build it?
I didn't take any because I wasn't ready to write that story yet.
You decided to write that story months prior,
Yes,
but you weren't ready to start writing it.
that's right.
So what was the need to buy the gun at that point?
I was celebrating. It was Christmas.
Boss lady, she didn't assume he was dead. She knew he was dead. She killed him. Right? She killed him, so she knew.
Christmas.
Right. But what was the need to buy the gun if you weren't writing the story yet?
Mr. Overstreet, we have had testimony upon testimony upon testimony about the fact Dan was a collector. Dan wasn't a collector by himself. I had my little piles of stuff. You know, what I have found in life is if you see something you want it, you can afford it, buy it now, because circling back for it, it may or may not be there.
And so now you're a gun collector?
No, now I have a piece of writing information research.
Did you said you didn't take any steps to try to build this gun.
I did not.
And I want to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 25.
Yes.
First of all, do you recognize this?
Yes.
You recognize all the parts in here?
Well, you're further away than I would say, but certainly it looks like all the parts are there.
Is this what it looked like when you got it?
Yes,
Approximately.
approximately.
And you saw this part in the kit.
I did.
Was there anything you needed to do to this to make it functional?
I hadn't gotten that deep into this gun. I'm not sure how to answer that question because the answer is I don't know.
Is there anything in the instructions or anything you saw online that made you think that you needed to manipulate this part?
And once again, I go back to I don't know because there are a slew of parts. You know, the only thing I can attribute it to is when you buy an IKEA thing, there are pieces that come fairly close together. And that isn't where you celebrate. You celebrate the little bags of all, you don't celebrate the little bag. Let me say this sentence again where it makes sense. You're delighted to see pieces more or less together. All the little parts, you're less delighted to see.
And is this why you never even opened these little baggies?
I wasn't ready to start yet. I didn't want them misplaced.
No attempts to try to build it. You didn't do any further research because you weren't ready to write this story.
That's right.
Thank you.
Jim.
Your defense attorney stated in opening that you knew, or that you thought you knew, that Nathaniel had previously done a build kit.
Yes,
You knew that, or thought that at least.
I thought he had said that, and I believed him.
When you had this story to do a gun build kit, and you actually purchased a gun build kit, you didn't ever talk to Nathaniel about his experience with a build kit.
No, and that wouldn't have been where I would have gone with that. Where I would have gone first would be to my father-in-law, Jack, who I knew had every equipment in the world and could help me drill out the parts that needed to be drilled out.
Okay, but you didn't do that either.
No, because I wasn't ready to start yet.
And how did you know you needed a drill press?
Because it was on one of the videos.
One of the videos.
Uh-huh.
How many did you watch?
I don't know.
Why were you watching videos if you weren't writing the story yet?
I was watching videos to see how to put it together.
But I thought you weren't ready to put it together.
I'm not ready to put it together, but that doesn't mean I'm not researching what I have to do to get it ready to get put together.
Okay, so now you're doing research online.
We have stated previously, and I am not backing down from that I investigated. One of my friends has a sign over her desk that says only James Michener gets to use all his research. You research everything to maybe come up with 6 sentences in a book that will make the book more realistic. So yeah, I do tons of research.
You do a lot of research.
I do.
So I'm just having a hard time having that make sense with what you said about planning and preparing.
Dan was a better planner than I was.
Hang on, let me ask you a question.
I'm so sorry.
You stated yesterday that you're not a planner. Did you say
But
that?
I did say that, but let me put a caveat on that.
Please.
I am not a planner in the initial stages the way Dan was, but I rarely go into anything willy-nilly, and I rarely do anything that I don't complete.
Yesterday, she gave us the example of how if she was going to build a chicken coop, she would be halfway through building it before she looked up and thought, maybe I should have made a plan. So this is the direct contradiction of what she said yesterday.
States Exhibit 82 showed that you were doing some of your research, maybe, on February 1st. You were searching for gun shops at that time.
I'm not sure what State Exhibit 82 is.
Okay, it was your some of your internet history.
Okay.
It was showed to you yesterday by your counsel and asked to you by your counsel about February 1st, and you're searching for gun shops in Portland. What searching for?
That was different. I wasn't researching that. When I'm looking for gun shops in Portland, it was not for gun pieces. At this point, it's on a whole different conversation. That's writing, and that's a little cubicle in and of itself in my life. What Dan and I were talking about was, did we need to own a gun at this point? And while we had both been adamant anti-gun people for a long time, the last 3 or 4 years had changed how we felt about that. And we were discussing it and had been discussing it for well over a year.
So as what was described yesterday as a left-leaning individual,
Yes.
your response to gun violence in the country was to buy a gun.
In 2017, one of the memes of the left was, if we continue to be anti-guns, does that mean that everybody in the country who will own a gun but the people on the left? And it was a serious concern. Lots and lots and lots of people were changing their ideas about gun ownership because the country had become so diversified.
Well, Ms. Brophy, I appreciate a meme as well and what other people's opinions might be, but I'm asking your position as somebody who was so anti-gun, in fact, that your law enforcement husband wasn't allowed to have a gun in the house.
No.
Hang on.
Sorry.
So anti-gun, but your response to gun violence increasing in this country was to buy a gun yourself. Yes or no?
Yes, with a caveat.
At what point from the time you received this ghost gun to June 2nd, did you decide that you were not going to use it?
That we're speaking now of the gun that we bought at the gun show.
No.
Oh, all right. Ask me the question again, please.
This ghost gun that I just showed
Right.
you. What point did you decide you were not going to use it?
I never decided I was not going to use it.
Is that why you kept it?
I kept it because eventually I was going to put it together and write the story.
And you decided the way to keep it would be to put it in a box with scarves and purses and store it in storage.
No. What I decided was to store it away until I reached the point that I would do it. But I was trying to get moved at that point. Certainly there was, I didn't see another big option there. And I even marked the box because at any point I expected the police to come back to me and say things like, does Dan have a computer? Do you all have a computer? Can we look at any of this? Do you all have anything else? So I marked it so I could find it again. That was for the police benefit. That wasn't for mine.
Oh.
I marked the box that I packed that it had a gun kit in it because I thought sooner or later the police are going to come back to me. And the police never once talked to me after that.
Did you literally just say that was for the police's benefit?
That was literally what I said. I marked the box for the police's benefit so that I could find it again when the police came back.
For
And
what?
Well, I sort of thought that if the police didn't find something, they would want to come back and re-interview and I would be able to show them things. I thought the fact that all they had was Dan's phone and not a computer premise they may have reached a dead end and said, Mrs. Brophy, is there anything you can give us that would help? Any electronic equipment, anything else? So I was kind of in my mind making a list. At that point, silly me, since I believed I didn't kill my husband, I didn't think I was a serious suspect.
It's interesting that she doesn't say, since I knew I didn't kill my husband. So I'm just saying hi to people. Hi, John Smith and Dog's mom and other people that I have seen that I haven't said hello to yet. Thanks for coming. Glad to see everybody. Yes.
Despite you telling people that you were.
I told people I was a suspect because it's always the wife.
So you lost me there for a minute. Let's circle back. You said something about computers.
Right.
I didn't ask anything about computers. I'm asking about a gun.
You're asking why I was marking things for the police.
I did not ask you that.
Okay.
I think maybe that's where.
This is really good because she just, oh my God, she cannot stay on top of even the simplest questions at this point. I think that she's in that brain box space where she's, as somebody put it, right, the circle is tightening on her and she's like her little brain cells are just bouncing around inside her little brain box and she can't seem to gain control of the situation. It's beautiful to watch.
Where I got a little lost.
Okay.
You said that you marked that box for the police benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you thought that was important to the police, that they might want this gun kit.
I had a hard time believing that I would be interviewed by the police for 45 minutes. We would have a brief conversation on the telephone, and I would never hear from them again till the case was solved. I thought for sure the police would come back and say, is there anything else you've got that could help us? And that would have included the gun kit.
Let's make this easier. What is the relevance of this gun kit to the police?
None, but we had it. I figured they'd ask for it sooner or later.
Why would the police ask you for a gun kit that they don't know that you own? I'm failing to understand what your rationale was for making this available to the police. You think it's so important to them that at some point they're going to come asking for it, but you don't call them.
I figured the police were doing the police job the way the police did it. That they probably did not need. I will be the first to tell you, I got my detective's license on TV.
I love this exchange here because none of it needed to happen except that she can't shut up. And she offered him this piece of information about marking for the police. So this was not part of his interrogation of her, right? She just offered him that, and he's like now gone off down this rabbit hole with her that she created for herself. It's beautiful to watch. It truly is.
And I can guarantee you I had ideas on how this case should have gone, but I sort of figured the police had more experience and they were the ones in charge.
So you think you have relevant evidence to a murder investigation, and you don't think you should mention it to the police?
How does a gun kit, even though I marked it, how is a gun kit relative evidence?
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you because I don't think it is, because it's never been put together.
Then why would you mark it for the police?
Because I figured the police would come back and want to know.
So what else did you think was relevant to the police investigation that you marked and did not share with them?
Such a great question.
I thought they would eventually want to know about the computers. Everything.
I would just like to celebrate the beauty of that question. What else did you mark for the police that you did not share with them? And he's doing this off the cuff because he didn't know she was going to offer this stupid information. Beautiful.
They thought they would eventually want to go through the computers and see what they could find, if anything, that would help them.
And did you give them a computer that belonged to Dan?
No, we had a computer. They never asked for it, but in my mind, I knew they would eventually, if they didn't solve the case by somebody coming in and confessing, they would eventually come back and say, can we see your computer? My computers weren't packed because I thought they were relevant to the police if the police wanted to go in that direction.
Well, that's not exactly true, right? I mean, you had a computer in storage.
No, I had a computer in a box in one room and a computer by the bed in another room. That's not in storage.
Right, one in a box in your room. What about the one that was in the storage unit?
There was not a computer in the
So
storage.
there wasn't a laptop in the storage unit?
There was not.
Okay.
What your guys' testimony was, they found the computer in a bedroom and they found the computer in a box in the other, in what had been the office.
And you would agree then that the stuff that was found on the computer that has been shown here in court was on the computer that was packed away in a box?
I think that's how they did it, but it were the two computers.
Why did you get a new computer in March of 2018?
When you open the computer, the old computer, you can't read the screen because it's become lines across it.
So you did all your research of all these guns on one computer, then packed that away in the closet, and then you got a new computer. Is that right?
I get a new computer every year. I take a computer with me when I go out to the fields. I beat a computer up. I buy a fairly inexpensive computer because I know I'm replacing it the next year.
And you thought the police would want that?
When
but you
she's
didn't give it.
off-roading out there at Starbucks, she beats up her computer quite a lot.
The police never contacted me again. I assumed that they were doing their job and didn't want my interference.
So you told your friends in this car ride, that was in February, right?
To one of them, yes.
The one where you're telling Darla Lukenbaugh about the fact that you bought this gun kit.
Yes.
And at that point, you had already bought State's Exhibit 26, the full gun from the gun show, correct?
If I hadn't bought it, I was close to buying it. I'm not sure of the exact date of the car ride in February.
In fact, you had not only bought this gun during that car ride, but you were actively bidding on the slide and barrel. Isn't that right?
Yes, probably. If it was after the 15th of February that we did this.
And we'll get to the slide and barrel in a minute, but your testimony and what your defense has asserted in their opening statements was that you bought that slide and barrel for writing.
That's true.
But you didn't tell your friends about the slide and barrel.
I was more on the story than I was on the gun kit.
Right. You would agree that you never told law enforcement that you owned this ghost gun kit?
No, because this ghost gun kit, despite the fact you refer to it as a weapon on a regular basis, is not a weapon unless I hit somebody over the head with the case. There's nothing about that gun kit that's a gun, except that if you spend a few hours and put it together, it could be a gun. But I've got eggs and flour in my pantry, and that's not an omelet either until you put it together.
And you would agree that you also never told the police about the slide and barrel that you purchased on eBay?
Mr. Overstreet, when I talked to the police in June, they asked me specific questions. My husband had just died. The fact that I was coherent at all is a miracle. The fact that they never came back to me after that for a follow-up interview, I thought was shocking. I thought this was on the police. This wasn't on me. The police said, we're handling this. You just go home and rest. You go home and take it one day at a time, and they never contacted me again, except for the things that they asked me for, which was Dan's schedule. I got that to them and I was having trouble with their email, but I did what I was asked to do.
Are you declining to answer my question?
Perhaps not. What was your question?
That was a lengthy answer for not remembering my question.
Well, I go off on tangents.
So I asked you, is it true that you did not tell the police about the slide and barrel?
It is true. I did not tell the police about the slide and barrel.
The slide and barrel that would fit perfectly on the gun show gun that you purchased.
The slide and barrel that I was using for research for my writing, I did not tell them about that.
You can answer that question?
I did. I said I did not tell them.
Would you agree that it fit on the gun that you bought from the gun?
It was the same thing. It could have been interchanged, yes.
So although you owned, well, we'll get to that in just a second. When exactly did you put the ghost gun in storage?
Somewhere between June 2nd and September 5th when I was arrested. I have no idea.
How big was your property?
We had half an acre.
Nothing. You're sure of that?
I'm positive of that.
Got some conflicting testimony, as you might remember.
Yes, but it was testimony from a woman who lived in an apartment who thought any amount of lawn was going to be huge.
Okay. So you had a half an acre.
Yes.
And it's true that lot behind your house was not 5 acres, right? It was actually just about an acre.
It could have been slightly larger. I think I've seen the plot and it was something like 1.3, but that's been a long time ago and I could be wrong.
You talked about the interview with the police and how that was, you just found out your husband died. And It's very hard to remember everything that you talked about in there.
Mhm.
But you do recall that you didn't have any trouble telling them about the firearm that you had purchased at the gun show, correct? In fact, you told them the whole story about why and how you purchased the gun.
Detective Merrill said, does Dan have any guns? Dan owned half a Glock. I told him about the full Glock. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic here, although I thought listening to that sentence, it came out snotty, which wasn't really the way I wanted it to come out. But what I will tell you is he asked me, I answered him the best way I knew how.
Why didn't you just say, yes, we have a gun?
I was trying to be helpful to the police at this point so they would know what was going on. You know, at this point, I thought they were going to find my husband's killer. And I didn't think they were going to say, let's look at the one person who didn't kill him.
But instead of just answering as to how and why you purchased that gun.
Mr. Overstreet, you are having trouble keeping me quiet now because I tell stories as I'm talking to you. Do you think I was less than that with the police when I'm upset? This is how I tell stories to illustrate what I'm saying.
Even though you were just informed of murder.
It just made me more upset.
And you paid cash for that gun?
Yes, we did.
Your attorney made a big deal out of you purchasing things with your debit card or credit card.
Right?
Why would you pay cash at the gun show?
Well, actually, that was Dan's idea. And when we talked about it and what have you, he said, here's $400 in cash. You get cash from your thing. So I went on Dan's idea on that.
Didn't you actually withdraw the $400?
I withdrew the $400, but he gave me $400 in addition, and he gave me cash.
Okay, I don't know that I quite understand that. Didn't you withdraw $400 from your On Point account?
After he had given me the first $400
How did he give you $400?
in cash.
Where did that come from?
Dan has cash at the house. Dan operates a cash business. You know, he sells eggs. He sells crap on the cart. He sells, he operates with a lot of cash.
Okay, so he gave you, and we'll talk about that too. So he gives you $400.
Mm-hmm.
You then go to On Point and
Mhm.
withdraw $400.
Mm-hmm.
So you have $800 cash.
I do.
What did you do with the remaining $300?
Well, it wasn't a remaining $300. As they were taking the gun apart to show me how it worked, they sold me, but I didn't have a receipt on this. They sold me some oil that they thought I was going to need. And in addition, I had bought a book on Glocks in general. So what did I do with the probably 200 plus, but not much plus? I don't know. Maybe I gave part back to Dan. That was a long time ago. It wasn't that essential to me. I have no memory of what I did with it.
You didn't put it back in your bank account?
Maybe Dan and I went out to dinner. Who knows? You know, but I could have just as easily given it back to Dan.
Okay. Told detectives, and I believe you testified to this as well, that you got home with that gun
Mhm.
and looked at it.
Mhm.
Thought it was heavy, ugly, some other maybe descriptive terms you used. I'm not quite sure right now. But you realized you didn't want it. You and Dan both realized you didn't want it.
I think we were both ambivalent about it still. That this didn't really solve the problem, but I think we went back and forth for months before we bought it and for weeks after we bought it.
Okay, so you didn't decide you didn't want it that day.
That's right.
Got it home, you took it. Did you handle it?
Oh, sure. We both did.
What did you do to handle it?
Well, you know, we pulled it out and we looked at it. And I mean, how would I have known it was heavy if I hadn't held it? You know, and, you know, somebody testified earlier that there were two little dark hairs that were in the slide. In our house, who had two little short dark hairs was not me. You know, that would have been Dan. He handled it.
Did you see him handle it?
Yeah, I was right there.
And what did he do with it?
He looked at it. He picked it up. He messed with it. He pointed it toward the backyard. So, you know, even though it had no bullets in it. You know, I don't recall. We had a great conversation about it, but he definitely handled it.
Did you ever remove the slide and barrel?
Oh, sure. I played with it.
Oh, you did remove the slide and barrel.
Sure.
Oh,
I didn't think that was a secret.
well, you didn't tell the police that.
The police didn't ask me whether I'd removed the sliding barrel.
You told the police that you got it home and that you realized how much you didn't want it and you put it away and never touched it again. Do you remember that?
I could have said that, but I was upset at the time. So that was probably an exaggeration. I handled the gun, you know.
It suited me at the time to say that. So now the narrative is different. And so now I'm saying this.
I may not have loved it, but I was still curious about it. And keep in mind, I'm writing a story about a gun and I need to research guns so I can have it. But yes, I didn't, you know, I touched the gun.
Yeah. And so your testimony today, after hearing all the testimony and seeing all the evidence on the screen, your testimony today is that you have removed that slide and barrel.
I have.
So you know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, right?
Oh, it's terribly hard. I broke 2 nails doing it. Don't believe them when they say it's not that hard. You can't just whip it off the way they do it. You have to hold the gun a certain way. You have to pull it back. I broke 2 nails pulling it back, and I thought, this isn't any fun. And you would be shocked at how hard it is to do. Yeah, if you've handled guns all your life, I'm sure it's a piece of cake. But I can tell you, for me, it was not.
So you remove the sliding barrel.
Yes.
I can tell you.
You can see that it's nearly identical to the ghost gun sliding barrel, correct?
I'd have to look at both of them now, but I would say yes.
Let's do that.
Oh, yeah, we can look at that. Okay.
Just prepare yourselves for the most beautiful, beautiful unfolding here, people. It's like a choreographed performance. It's beautiful.
I'm not going to hand these to you. I'm just going to show them to you.
Yes.
Agree that these look nearly identical.
I would agree that they look identical, but they obviously are not. One of them is quite a bit longer than the other one,
Quite a bit longer.
which makes them not identical. When you're circling the little things on which find 5 things in this picture that aren't identical, you would circle that.
Right. This one is slightly shorter.
Yes.
Block 19, ghost gun. What else is not identical about this gun?
Well,
Sliding barrel.
one of them obviously has a zip tie on it, but they are similar, is what I would say, but they are not identical.
Can you see the back?
Yes. I agree they're similar.
Can you see the top?
I agree they're
But can you see the?
I would ask you this, as you're demonstrating this, does it fit on the other gun? No. Does that make it not identical? Yes.
You know it didn't fit, right?
I knew it didn't fit because I knew that I had a book on Glocks, and in order for a Glock to work, it had to work the right way.
You knew it didn't fit, and then you bought a sliding barrel that would fit the gun show gun, right?
No, I bought a sliding barrel that was the same one. I could have easily bought one that fit the ghost gun, but I did not. I bought this one.
Why would you buy another sliding barrel to fit the ghost gun when you couldn't build it? You already own it. You own this piece right here. You own this.
Yes.
So why would you buy another one?
If a trigger had been available, I would have bought a trigger. I'm telling you, I was fascinated with gun pieces at that point because I was writing a story on gun pieces and making it into a gun.
There's a trigger in this kit.
Yes, and I would have bought another one if I'd had it. I figured if I could construct them together the way the character would have, it would have worked fine.
But Ms. Brophy, you didn't buy other gun pieces. You bought a sliding barrel that would fit this gun.
That's true.
No other pieces did you buy.
No, but I wasn't finished shopping either.
You were worried. Your counsel said this. I don't know if you believe it or agree with it, but I'm going to ask you. You needed to buy that sliding barrel because you were worried about taking this gun apart?
Yes.
Okay. But you just testified that you took the sliding barrel off of it.
That's not taking the gun apart. We're talking about if we took the sliding barrel itself completely apart, could I put it back together and have a gun that wouldn't backfire on me and kill me? And so the fact that when I said to Dan, I can take this gun, the real gun, not the kit plated gun, apart, and it'll help me do this. Dan said, no, 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 no. I've seen you in action. That's a mistake. Let's keep it together. We may get to sell it.
I'm not talking about taking the entire gun apart.
Okay.
I'm talking about the sliding barrel.
Yes.
It's a critical piece of information. As you know now, if you didn't know before this trial, you know now the sliding barrel is what it is at issue, right?
Yes.
You keep talking about the gun and taking it apart and all that. Talking about the sliding barrel.
Mm-hmm.
You have a gun complete,
Mhm.
sliding barrel intact. You know how to remove it. In fact, you did.
Mhm.
You can manipulate the sliding barrel separate and apart from the rest of the gun,
Mhm.
but you chose to buy the exact same piece. Is that right?
Yes, but I have a caveat on that too.
Of course. Go ahead.
The caveat I have on that was I wasn't thinking, hey, this would work that way. I was thinking because for me, the gun was the gun, the toy was a toy, the pieces were the toy.
I'm not talking about the ghost gun, Ms. Brophy.
We're talking about the difference between the slide and the barrel.
Talking days, within days.
What I can tell you is it was for writing. It was not to, as you would have it, murder my husband.
Why isn't this for writing? What's the difference?
Are you tapping the ghost gun or are you tapping the full gun? That isn't for writing because that isn't the story.
Your Honor, at this point, if counsel's going to be aggressive, I would ask that he not have a gun.
That might have been my actual favorite moment in the trial, when the defense implies that the prosecutor is going to fly off the handle and shoot Miss Brophy. Ms.
Okay, hold on a sec. I'm going to allow him to hold the gun.
Explain to me what the difference is between this piece right here that I'm pointing to, the slide barrel that you removed yourself,
Mhm.
and the one that you bought on eBay.
I thought we just went through that.
You're telling me you couldn't use this for writing.
No, that was the end piece. That was for protection. The other was for research.
So at this point, you spent over $1,000 in guns and gun parts.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Mhm.
By the time you buy the eBay slide and barrel, you're upwards around $1,500. About. Your attorney seemed to indicate that you happened upon the eBay slide and barrel.
Yes.
It was just a pop-up ad.
No, it wasn't a pop-up ad.
That's what she said.
Well, if that's what she said, then I probably said that to her at one point or another, but it wasn't something that, the slide and barrel was a, did you say that?
You-
Sorry. I didn't happen upon it. At the point that I decided I wanted to do this, I tend to be impulsive and I bought it because I wanted it.
She's impulsive. She's a planner. She's not a planner. She is whatever suits her in the moment.
Where is it?
I have no idea. If you'd asked me on the day of my arrest, I would have told you that it was either in the house or it was either in storage. I haven't seen it for months and months and months and months. So,
And you just bought it in February and got it at the very last day of February, right? February 28th?
could be. I don't know. I mean, I'm not looking at my numbers, notes.
You didn't lose this gun.
No,
You didn't lose the gun kit.
the gun kit went to the police. The gun went to the police. I didn't have to worry about packing that.
Ms. Brophy, I'm talking about the time leading up to the murder.
Oh, all right. No, I knew where it was.
You knew where the ghost gun was.
It was on the floor of my closet.
You knew where that gun was,
Yes. And I would tell you that the slide was on the floor of my closet next to the ghost gun.
just sitting on the floor.
Mhm.
Just like literally sitting on the floor.
Well, it wasn't in the middle. It was tucked behind, next to, rather than behind, next to an armoire I had in the closet.
Okay. When's the last time you saw it?
That's what I was saying. I can't remember. I have no idea when the last time I saw it was. I know that I messed with it in February. I know I messed with it in March, but I can't remember seeing it after that.
The mystery.
Why didn't you make an attempt to locate it and mark it for the police like you did the ghost gun?
I stumbled across the ghost gun when I was packing. That's why I marked the box. In my mind, I had a list of things I thought the police might come back and ask me for, and I thought the ghost gun would be among them.
Do you see the irony in not being able to locate that and that being the allegation that that was the murder weapon?
You know, I see nothing ironic about this case at all. I see nothing happy about this case at all.
You're aware that the police searched your storage unit,
I am?
your pods,
Yes,
your house.
yes.
You're aware that they even opened up your appliances inside your house to search for.
I was
guns.
not aware of that.
Okay. You would agree that you've previously written about hiding weapons inside appliances, correct? One of your books?
Maybe, but I don't remember that.
Are you aware that they even opened up a wall to search for a gun?
Yes, they did it after the house went into 8 months after they had gotten the search warrant. They went back with a new search warrant just before it closed.
So they did all that searching.
Hmm.
She's incensed that they opened up the wall 8 months later. Like, that's the issue here.
Got the ghost gun.
Hmm.
Couldn't find the slide and barrel from eBay.
Hmm.
But you stored a lot of stuff in your niece's basement, didn't you?
I did. But the stuff I stored in my niece's basement happened after the police were finished with the house. That was everything that was at the end. So the police had either looked at it or they hadn't.
You didn't store anything anywhere else before your arrest?
No,
And you're sure that nothing went to your niece's house?
I'm positive nothing went to my niece's house until after. Wait, let me back up just a minute because there's a fact here. Susan had left some clothes. For a while, they had been at Sarah's house before Dan died. And I'm going to say maybe as long as a year before Dan died, I went and got all the boxes that Susan had left and put them in our storage building so that when Susan came, I was able to give those to her sister and she took them home. So I have had things stored at Sarah's house in the past.
You know, like you just said, that the police were very interested in the slide and barrel from eBay, right?
I know that from the testimony and from the hearings we've had.
You have the discovery.
I have the discovery.
Your Honor, I have a matter for the court.
All right, let's have the jury step out for just 1 minute.
Oh, I need to stand.
Slide and barrel was important to the police. You knew that from reading the,
Happened to the slide and barrel.
I think what the direction counsel went is you knew that the slide and barrel was important to the police. You knew that from reading the discovery. And I anticipate the next question is, even after reading in the discovery that the police were very concerned about finding the slide and barrel, you did not produce it. Now, I know that she's already answered the question in the fact that she said, I have no idea where that our slide and barrel is, but at this point, if we're going to pursue a line of questioning about what evidence she must produce or the jury should think she must produce post-arrest, I think is wrong. And I think it violates her rights not to even have a jury make an adverse inference regarding the production of evidence.
Well, let me ask, what was the question? What was the line of questioning going to be?
I'm going to ask her about why she didn't. Well, I don't want to disclose the question, Your Honor. Before.
Okay, all right.
It's
Well,
not that. I can tell you that.
Here's where I'm at. So she is testifying. She's not remaining silent. And she's already answered the question about what became of the slide and barrel. I'm not totally sure where the state is going with this line of questioning. So at this point, I'm overruling the objection, but Ms. Maxwell, depending on what the state asks, feel free to raise it again. But at this point, I think it's fair game to ask about what she knew. And I don't know if she knew or didn't know what the state's about to ask, because I'm not quite sure what the state's going to ask.
And I will say, Your Honor, I'm not asking why she didn't give it to police. She's already said she didn't know where it was. I already have that answer.
Are you asking questions about her refusing to produce other evidence? Or, I mean, can you give me a general idea? I know you don't want her to hear the question in advance, but I'm just trying to get an idea of the theme.
It is not her refusal to produce evidence.
Okay.
That is not my line.
All right. Let's bring the jury back in.
I will go ahead and the jury will go over.
Mr. Overstreet, you can ask the question.
Ms. Brophy, I believe your answer was that you did have the discovery, you reviewed it,
Yes.
and you do realize or did realize that this slide and barrel that was outstanding was a central issue in this case.
Yes, probably 8 months after my arrest, I realized that.
And you understand that today.
Yes.
Now you've testified. Well, we've heard different things from your interview with the police and what you've said on the stand, that you sort of hated guns, you didn't like them, but then you became interested in them for writing, then for safety, and then you seem to have taken quite an interest after that in guns. Is that safe to say?
I would say the irony is that we bought a gun to protect us and it didn't protect us.
Interest in guns.
My interest in guns were twofold. One is the protection, which it didn't work. And second is the writing, which has nothing to do with guns, but has to do with gun pieces.
Right. But you said you became obsessed with firearms.
I was obsessed with the writing and the gun pieces, not with firearms. You know, I wasn't investigating AR-15s or shotguns or anything like that.
Just Glocks.
Just a handgun that would protect my character.
And you did a lot of research online.
Not yet. I've started it.
So didn't you just testify? Like,
That I started researching, that I research online all the time, but I wasn't finished researching by any stretch of the imagination.
you'd been to a gun show,
Yes,
bought a gun,
yes,
bought a ghost gun, went through that whole process.
right.
When did you go to the gun range?
I never have been to a gun range.
Never been to a gun range. So you're doing this research, you're getting ready to do this writing, you have all these people around you that know about guns and own guns and have maybe even done some research themselves for their own books.
Mhm.
Why didn't you ever talk to Nathaniel about guns?
I have talked to Nathaniel about guns. There was a point I was writing a story early on, and I told him I needed a gun, a type of gun that I could have my hero use, and he gave me the name and explained why.
When was that?
Well, it was probably 2010. It had been a while before.
So in 2018,
So how is it relevant here, Nancy? Oh my God.
2017, 2018, you had known for years that Nathaniel had knowledge about guns.
Yes, but sorry,
You talked to Dan's brothers about guns?
that they owned them,
No.
or at least Bill owned them.
And did you talk to Tanya Medlin and her husband about guns?
Apparently Dan talked to him more than I did, but yeah.
And Terry Reed?
No, I don't think Terry Reed and I discussed guns at all.
What about your other writer friends, including Jesse Smith?
Jesse Smith, salute. I probably talked briefly to Linda Smith, but I knew how she felt. And Linda Smith does not write that kind of a story anyway.
Why didn't you talk to Matt Gitchell about guns?
Well, I didn't know that he was an authority.
Why not follow up with Tony Hall, who you knew was an authority?
Tony Hall was really Dan's friend. I mean, I knew him, but I never ran into him.
Why didn't you do any research at the gun show or go to a gun store and talk to them?
Because I wasn't ready to write the story yet.
Okay.
That would have come.
In fact, the company that you bought the gun through, J&B Firearms,
Mhm.
that's actually a gun store that's very close to your house, right?
It turned out to be, yeah.
They had recommended that you go to Threat Dynamics or that gun range that we've
Mhm.
seen a couple of times. You never went to Threat Dynamics?
Never.
You've never gone to the Tri-County Gun Club?
Is that the one that we keep talking about out on 26?
No.
Oh, well, no, I've never been there.
Where were you going on the 26th when you were out near that gun range?
Oh, on the 2 random days in March that we've been talking about off and on? Is that what you're asking me about now?
Yes.
Okay. Dan and I had decided that that was an area we wanted to look at. I'm driving around frequently out there trying to look to see if there's any property, anything that leaps out at us, anything that is all the requirements Dan has. The land has to be flat for gardening. The land has to be fairly treeless so that we don't have the shadow hanging over it. I know what he requires, and I know what I need in the house.
Isn't
You
that
know?
state land out there?
It is after fashion, and that's why I didn't go all the way out to where you're saying it was. I went out after fashion, came back.
You just drove out there randomly, were there less than a couple of minutes, and then headed back to Portland? on
No,
the
I didn't.
26th?
I didn't do any of the. Wait, let's stop. Ask your question to me again, and let me see if
On the
I
26th, the first day, I believe it was
Okay.
a Monday,
right,
while Dan was at work,
right,
you drove out to that area.
right.
And according to cell site location information, it appears that you drove out there, turned around, and drove back.
Yes.
I don't think I drove that far out there. I mean, I know that it's out there. I know because we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, but I have never, ever, ever been there. And if I had been going there, I would have gone there with Dan, and I would have gone there with, we ended up at the closest I got to it. We had 2 minutes, 10 minutes that I could have spent there. I can think if I was just going out to fire a gun at dirt, that I could have found someplace a whole lot closer to my house and driving an hour and a half to make that happen.
So you knew about that gun range.
I had heard about the gun range from the J&B people.
In fact, that's your handwriting, right?
I
On
don't
the
know. I haven't seen that note in ages.
receipt. Yeah. So you knew it was there, though.
And I'm not sure that is my handwriting as I'm thinking about it. I think they wrote it down.
Okay.
But I can look at the note again and tell you.
Let's not get lost in the weeds here.
Okay.
You know about the gun range.
I the gun range.
Your car just happens to be out in that area on the 26th. I'm sorry, your phone happens to be out in that area on the 26th.
And what I can tell you is Delilah Marvell's property is west of Banks. Vernonia is northwest. The area Dan wanted to look in is this area. And I was looking. you know, and I can tell you, we've been looking for a while. You'll see if you went back and looked at my locations at the kiosk. I frequently was in that area looking, once again, property, what would work. You know, I'm all over town. Now, to be perfectly honest, I don't do any of this, but I'm sure I did it. And since you brought up so often, I have seriously thought about it. But all I can tell you is it wasn't a day where I thought, whoa, this will be new and different. This was just a day. And I'm assuming the reason I'm driving around out there in that area is because I look for property. This is not a situation where I have a clear memory of it. This is a situation where if I was out there on 2 random days in March, then what was happening was I was probably looking for property. And that is my best guess.
Didn't you have lunch with someone that day
I could have. I don't remember.
in Portland?
I have no idea. I mean, let's go back. Let's look at the records. I can probably reconstruct, but where does it say I had lunch?
Didn't you go to Nicholas's restaurant in Northeast Portland on Broadway on the 26th?
Okay, I could have.
Does that sound familiar?
I go there frequently. I have a friend who really likes to go there, and we frequently meet and talk about writing there.
And who were you meeting there?
Oh, well, it's somebody who hasn't testified. It's a woman named Marilyn Hull, Hull, H-U-L-L.
So on the 26th, you get up, you Google how to load a Glock 9mm. You drive out to an area that.
Wait, I don't know that I Googled that, but if you say I did, I'd like to see that. But I could have. I mean, once again, I am messing with gun pieces, you know. I am not messing with research. I am not messing with, so I could have put that in that morning if I had some spare time, because I don't think I gave up the gun research until the beginning of April, when I knew I had to get back and finish my other story. Part of the problem is if you don't finish the story you're on, then you have story pieces everywhere. And you know, people say, what's the most difficult thing about writing a book? It's finishing the book. You have to force yourself to finish it. When you've written yourself into a hole, it's real easy to see a new idea out there that would be more interesting. You have to go back and force yourself. So yeah, I had a few months where I flirted with guns, but real frankly, my goal was to finish the book I was on.
Okay, so in March, you are doing research at that point.
I could be, yes.
And can we go and put up State's Exhibit 82?
Sure.
Go there. 26th, 10:13 a.m. Do you do that?
There it is.
Searching.
That was the moment. I can't remember who put it in. I can't remember who asked. Have we there? Is that it? Was it you, Dream Horse? Who was it who said, did we get to the moment where she puts on her mask instead of putting on her glasses yet? Well, we just had it.
Loading a 9mm Glock.
Okay.
Immediately after that, searching cleaning a Glock.
Okay.
And then you get in your car,
Okay.
drive out to an area that has now been established.
I don't want to put this back on. Okay, but I can guarantee you that I wouldn't have gone that far. And the reason why is because that's all forested land and it's higher elevation than what Dan wanted. But I'm not going to tell you I wasn't out there, because I probably was. You know, you got video that shows my phone visited it.
And you're out there for no time at all. Basically turn around and drive straight back into Northeast Portland for lunch.
That could be.
Okay.
It could be that that could have happened. I drive a lot in my job. I also drive a lot for meditation, for work, for writing.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
You're saying you drove around 2 random days in March. I'm saying my best guess is I was looking for property, but my best guess could have been I was filling a plot hole too. Are you following me? Then I don't know what I was doing. I'm giving you what I regard as great possibilities of what I was doing.
Sorry, are you following me? Who does this person think she is? Oh my God.
Great. So you have a nice lunch. You go home.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning, you get up and do the same thing.
Okay.
Dan's at work again.
Okay.
You drive out to the same area,
Mm-hmm.
exact same area,
Mm-hmm.
but you're there for longer. Do you recall that?
I recall the testimony that
I'm asking if you recall.
no. I know these are 2 random. I drive all the time. I don't think about this. I drive when I'm thinking about the story. I drive when I'm working. I work all over this whole area. No, I don't recall 2 random days in March that I was driving around. I can tell you for sure I never went to the gun range.
Would it surprise you that that's the only 2 times that your phone, as far back as the phone records go, that we have, when you head out that way, the only time you don't go all the way to the coast?
No, that can't possibly be true. And the reason why that can't possibly be true is because I have a lot of clients in Vernonia. And I would have gone out to see them, if nothing else, during Medicare season. You know, I have clients, I drive all over. I love Vernonia. I think it is a charming little town. But that does not mean that that could possibly have been the only times I was out there that I didn't go to the coast.
Do you agree on the 26th and 27th you didn't go to Vernonia?
I don't remember going to Vernonia, but your records show that I didn't go to Vernonia, and I'm willing to believe you.
I want to talk about Dan's routines.
Okay.
We've got a lot of testimony in this case. I think you'd agree that he held a pretty strict routine. Is that correct?
Yes.
Whatever it was, whether it was what time he left for work or
Depending on the day, he held a strict routine depending on what his schedule was for the day.
I think you testified that within a 30-minute window is pretty much he got up at the same time every day. Didn't matter if he's going to work.
That's absolutely true.
What time was that?
It was between 4 and 4:30.
That's what he would wake up.
Mhm.
Okay. And I think you testified to, and I know you told the police that he walked the dogs,
Mhm.
took care of the chickens,
Mhm.
sometimes go get you coffee.
Mhm.
That was pretty routine for him.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else?
He frequently, if he needed to do something like go to Wojamaya in the morning, he would do that. He did shopping for his class or for whatever he was doing, usually early in the morning.
Okay.
You know, he worked in the garden early in the morning.
It sounds like you two kind of did your own thing during the day. Like he would go to work, you had your things to do. Like you would have go and meet clients, things like that. But you didn't work together.
That's not true. We frequently worked together.
You worked at OCI?
No, but we worked together on different things. If he had a class outside of OCI, for example, I might take things down to him. I took things down to OCI for Dan 3 to 4 times a month because he would get to school and realize he'd left something. So we worked together in terms of doing things, but not necessarily on projects.
Right.
Am I being clear?
Not really.
Okay. Good.
So would you say that generally you knew where Dan was?
Yes, I would say that.
And in general, would he know where you were?
In general, he would know where I was.
You guys would communicate, I'm going to work or I'm coming home or whatever.
Yes, or you know, I sold a policy, or the dogs are having an issue, or whatever. We were in constant contact.
Okay. And in general, I know it depends on what kind of stuff is happening at OCI. On the weekends, did Dan generally leave around the same time?
In general, did Dan leave around the same time every day? No, it would depend on what his schedule was. You know, if he was working weekends, he left at a different time. If he was working days, he worked at a different time. If he was going mushroom hunting, he left at a different time.
Listen to the question. The question is, on the weekends,
All right.
when going to OCI,
Right?
did he generally leave at the same time?
I would say within a 30-minute window, yeah.
And on June 2nd,
Mhm.
did you expect for him to leave earlier that day because of the live fire?
It wouldn't have surprised me for him to, but Dan was always prepared. Dan took being a Boy Scout to heart, and he was always prepared. We went to a party where somebody cut themselves with a knife. Who had a medical kit? Dan. You know, he was Mr. Prepared. So he could have left earlier. He could have been well enough prepared that he didn't need to.
And in preparation for that live fire, he actually took 2 carts down to the school the day before, correct?
That wasn't in preparation for the live fire. He took two.
Oh, just, okay.
He took 2 carts down because he does that every weekend.
Gotcha. He does that every Friday.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I hate to commit to every Friday. He does it every weekend, but the days he chooses to do it are his days.
And you were aware that he did that Friday, June 1st.
I was.
And you know Dan generally parks on 17th in front of the Culinary Institute.
No, I think he parks there a fair amount, but he also parks on Madison. He rarely uses a lot because he's one of the lucky people who have a parking sticker.
He can park on the street.
Yeah, and he parks wherever he parks. I mean, I don't think he has assigned parking or even his idea of assigned parking.
Does it make sense to you, though, that when he is bringing things to the school, that he would park on 17th so that he could unload and load into the school?
That would make sense. But I would also say when he and the Starbucks across the street were doing 5-gallon buckets of coffee grounds, he parked on Jefferson so he could deal with that.
What do you guys think? Like, why is she saying just like that bit? I mean, she does it a lot, but like, what is the motivation behind saying that? Like, is she trying to show that she knew Dan better than he knew himself? Is she trying to just, be in control of the conversation? Is she trying to obfuscate by just like baffle them with just the so much information thing, like the way that Corey Richards' lawyers did with Carmen? Like, why does she do that? I mean, I know that she doesn't realize how bad it looks. I'm just wondering, what is her motivation, or is she just like trapped in her little brain box and just spewing stuff now? Is it all of the above? Yeah, maybe all of the above.
You stated that you knew that the doors would usually be locked at the school. Is that true?
The doors were always locked. As far as I know, I don't know of an incident where anything but the student door would have been open, that people could have gone in and out.
Yeah, maybe all of it.
We'll talk about the school a little bit more in just a
Okay.
second. You sort of mentioned this. Actually, I think you did mention it, that Dan always had cash.
Mhm.
Is that just kind of the guy he was? He liked to deal in cash as opposed to cards and credit cards?
He operated with cash, and so he needed a lot of ones because of the card. So he frequently would have little money bundles of ones at home from either money he'd made off the cart or what have you. He operated with cash more, but it was largely for the cart.
Right. And it's true that he often didn't even know how much money was in his own account, right?
Dan was more routine than that. I wouldn't say he didn't know how much was in his account. I would say it differently. I would say Dan had the reason why we broke up our finances the way we did was because his expenses were much more routine, and he could figure out his money based upon the fact his check was much more routine than my life was.
Right. But he would actually reach out to you to ask you if his check had been deposited, right?
Yes. He occasionally he would call me and say, I need you to look at the bank account and tell me this or that.
I'm about to start a new subject. I don't know if you want to.
All right, let's go ahead and take our morning break then and be back on the record at 10:45.
Okay, we'll go on record at 11. All right.
Or
Okay.
Yeah, there's some good comments here. I think that's really insightful. Billie Jean says, I think there's an inherent need to minimize him that comes from her narcissism. She does not consider his death a big but are really famous for that whole, like, are you still mad about that? That was yesterday, right? Like, they really they live a life of expedience, right? So they do things that are expedient, that help them in the moment, and then they later go, well, I had to do that because of this. Like, I mean, I know that I know that maybe it was not the right thing to do or whatever, but I had to because of this. Like, their whole life is just expedience. And I think that's an insightful comment, Billie Jean. And let's see what other people are saying. Yeah, divorce would have given her nothing. Yes, she did. She certainly talked about how much, I mean, she pretended later that it was all fiction, that it wasn't actually her, but Suma says it's like they have this fantasy of themselves in their mind and they have to drive home that narrative. To go against it would mean they're wrong, but they're the only ones who understand. Yeah. I mean, it seems very clear that she's just here to kind of set the record straight, basically, is kind of the attitude that she's taken, right? I mean, he has discombobulated her quite severely a couple of times, but that's kind of the vibe, right? Is she's here to set the record straight, and that's where she keeps trying to get back to, I think. But yeah, he's dismantling her. Ruth Ann is always on the go, but usually lurking. Well, give your dog a little pet and a cuddle for me. I feel like that's true. I feel like he did not, and I think that he thought that she was better with money than she was. And she can't control her ego. No, they can't. None of them can. None of them can. Yes, and her mask is slipping. Yeah, but I think she's trying to get back. What she's trying to get back to every time with her stories and or whatever is to that, like, I'm here to set the record straight. You know, I'm the authority here, and I'm telling you all how it was. That's how I feel. Anyway, here we go. Carrying on.
Which is a text from Dan Brophy to Nancy Brophy, asking her whether she's tackling Susan's room with, I think, with abandon. Counsel had asked Ms. Brophy on cross-examination why they hadn't cleaned up the house before Dan died. And so I want to talk to her about this texted question because it sets the time in which she's actually trying to clean out Susan's room, which is the second bedroom downstairs, which happened on March 4th of 2018.
Sorry,
Okay, I'm trying to follow. There were some questions about whether or not they had cleaned up to prepare to sell the house before his death. What is the relevance of this?
The relevance is this. He's asking Ms. Brophy whether she's attacking.
Okay, sorry, I'm skipping all that and just going back to the cross-examination because I don't want to follow all that. Billie Jean says she's really trying to stave off the narcissistic injury response, even as it is threatening to burst out of her. Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, she's... Like I said, she thought she was just going to set the record straight and everybody was going to go, oh, thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Now we all understand that you're innocent and we're going to go back to searching for the real killer. And yeah, that's not happening, and it's extremely painful for these kind of people when they become unmasked. It's more painful for a narcissist than it is for the rest of us, right? Most of us can kind of handle being wrong or being mistaken about things, right? They cannot handle that.
Yes, I can see it.
So let me know when you're ready. Okay.
I'm ready.
Right?
I want to talk to you about your familiarity with the Oregon Culinary Institute.
Okay.
And I asked you if you could see States Exhibit
Very
1.
much.
That's what you were saying. Yes, you can see that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does that look familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
How many times would you say you visited the Oregon Culinary Institute?
Hundreds.
Have you been to most areas of the building?
I have been. And before it was OCI, it was a division of Western Culinary. So I have been there many times.
Is that where that's not the building that you went to culinary school? Though,
No,
correct?
it's not.
Okay. But when it was Western Culinary, you had familiarity with it then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then when it became the Oregon Culinary Institute, of course, Dan worked there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you think you've been there hundreds of times?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any area that you haven't ever been in? You can use the pointer there if you'd like.
All right. This area, it's not that I don't know that classroom, it's that I've really never been in there. And this little closet area in here, I've never been in there. This became a classroom later, but I've certainly been in it when it was an empty space. Other than that, I would say no.
Okay. When you would come down to the Culinary Institute, well, there's been some testimony that you used to come to the restaurant quite a bit. Where would you generally park and where would you go in?
You can have an hour's parking out in front, and but I never parked in the student parking lot. It was too crowded. So you either parked in the hour parking lot or across the street in front of Starbucks in that area. Okay. You would go in.
Ooh, she likes the demonstratives. She's taking nicely to the demonstratives.
This entrance down here.
Okay.
And then sit in the dining room.
And then when you came down to say bring Dan something or just come to visit or whatever, where would you generally park and go in then?
A lot of times I wouldn't park at all. A lot of times Dan would leave the vehicle unlocked for me. I would find where he'd parked. I'd put stuff on a seat. I'd lock his car. I would get back in and go. Other times Dan would meet me with a cup of coffee because he knows a good bribe. And he would give me the coffee. I'd give him whatever he'd gotten at the house, and I would not go in. On the few occasions that I went in, I would come into student interest because that was the one that was unlocked.
Right. So he asked her which entrance would you come in when you came in? And then she went on to explain about all the times that she didn't go in for whatever reason, and the reasons, and the quirky little evidence of her quirky little wit about the good bribe of a cup of coffee. And now she's going to answer the question of which door she went into.
Okay. Now, you said that you visited the Culinary Institute a couple weeks prior to Dan's death, also on a Saturday, about 7:30 in the morning.
I could have been.
With cell site location information said that it was 7:30. Would you agree with that?
I probably would, yeah.
Okay. You said that day you were meeting a client and you decided to stop there to use the restroom.
Right.
You said that Dan had to let you in.
Yes.
Which door was that?
Dan would have let me in the staff entrance, which is down at the end of that strip.
That 17th
Right.
Side door.
Right.
And did you park on the street?
Yes.
And he let you in that door?
Yes.
You said you went to the restroom.
Yes.
Which restrooms did you go to?
I have no idea.
Did you go to the ones in that main hallway or did you have to go somewhere else?
Well, the restrooms are here and here. So I went to one of them. I have no idea which restroom I went to.
When you were using the restroom, where did Dan go?
He did whatever he does, you know. He was doing what his routine was or whatever.
What did you see him doing when you were in there?
Why is she speaking so fucking glibly about Dan when she's in the courtroom on the stand being questioned about his murder? Dan did what Dan does, you know, whatever. I mean, how does she not know? How does she not know that this is inappropriate? How? She is not, I haven't heard her giggling and laughing as much.
Well, I was in the restroom. I didn't see him doing anything.
Not while you're in the restroom, when you're in the building.
I came out of the restroom. He came out of one of the classrooms. He walked me to the door, and I left. We didn't have social hour. He was working. I was borrowing the bathroom. I had things to do. He had things to do.
What were the names of the other people that were there?
I didn't see anybody there, but that didn't mean people weren't there. I would have said Yadu was there, and I probably would have said the other instructor was there.
But you didn't see or hear anyone, did you?
Not that I recall.
That's another one of those Veriscope tells that I would have said this, I would have said that, as a way of not saying the truth.
And that was on May 17th?
I'm not sure.
If the cell site location information put you at the school?
Sorry, I think she's describing the day. She's describing the day a couple of weeks before where she popped in to use the bathroom. And I think that what the prosecutor is trying to say is that was part of her prepping and planning for the murder so that she could scope out and make sure that there were no cameras in the school, and that she used the excuse of having the bathroom. And that's the day that that they were talking about. I think he's now moving on to the day of the murder.
School at 7:30 on May 17th. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure. And the reason why I'm not sure is, I'm just going to say I'm not sure.
Okay. But you agree that it's 2 to 3 weeks prior?
Something like that.
Okay. And you didn't go another time?
No.
Okay. So, being familiar with this building, you knew there were no cameras in the building, right?
You know, that just never came up in the conversation. I wouldn't have told you if there were cameras in the building or not.
You don't recall telling anybody that you knew there were no cameras in the building?
I may have said that because I may have known more 5 years ago than I know more now.
Huh?
Okay, that I know there was no cameras now because of all these things that have happened. I can't really tell you, although I may have known it, whether there were cameras before that. I just don't remember if I knew that before.
What about outside the building? Did you see any cameras?
Once again, I wasn't looking.
What about over at BMW? Or yeah, what was BMW was prior to the property room? Did you see any cameras over there?
Not looking. I wasn't paying enough attention to have told you that.
Did you see any cameras in any of the visits that you came down to the Oregon Culinary Institute?
Couldn't tell you.
When did you find out about Mark's death?
I can't tell you.
I mean, who talks like that when they're being questioned about, like, who talks like that? In this, the wrong tone. She's got the wrong tone again.
The exact time, but I can tell you the day. And it was Mark died on June 22nd.
What were you doing when you got that call?
I can't even tell you if it was Susan or Holly who called me. I talked to both of them, and I don't know who told me that. But Sarah, not Susan or Holly, Sarah or Holly. Sarah said, "Can I come over?" And I said, "Sure." But whatever I was doing, it was probably wandering around in a fog anyway. So I have no idea what I was doing.
So did you find out on a phone call, or?
Is it better if I sit back a little? Yes, I found out on a phone call.
What about Ed? What were you doing?
I think cousin Janet was there when we found out about Ed. We both knew he was in bad health, but I think cousin Janet may have gotten the text or a phone call or something from that, so we knew.
And you've seen all the video of you driving around downtown at this point, right?
Yes.
Seen you still photographs from that.
Mm-hmm.
And you testified on direct that it looked like your van.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't quite say. You do agree that is you at this point, right?
You know, I do.
We're about to enter into the discussion of suffer and succotash. The gig is up. Yeah, we're about to enter into the conversation of her fugue state, where she just, forgot everything that happened. She forgot that she was driving in front of the Oregon Culinary Institute within 6 minutes of the murder. She just forgot about that. It was the retrograde amnesia.
But I would say that it took me a while to get to that stage.
Yeah. But as you sit here today, you agree that it is you driving.
But I also think that only because of the date stamp, I tell on the thing I tell you it was that morning.
Right. You're not challenging that. You're agreeing that is you.
We have more things to challenge than me driving around in this case.
Again, with the tone. I know, Suma, you're absolutely right. If I just remind myself of Anthony Tote every time she does something like that, I'll go, oh yeah, they're just like that. But my God, just answer the question.
You would agree that you're driving around and in front of the Culinary Institute at the exact time that Dan is being murdered?
No, actually, I don't agree with that. I was driving around for a full hour before Dan got murdered. I was down there before Dan ever got to school. I was driving around writing for a full hour. I was only in that vicinity for 6 minutes, and I don't know that Dan was murdered in that 6 minutes. We agree that he was murdered in that time frame, but in terms of when he arrived and shortly thereafter, but whether it's not in that 6 minutes or not, I don't know.
I'm sorry, did you just say that you were driving around writing?
Yes, that's what I was doing, was driving around writing. I testified to that yesterday, that I would find a place to park and I'd jot down ideas.
I thought you didn't know that you were driving.
Yesterday, what I testified for was that when I was sitting in there, I could remember being in the parking lot writing. Didn't I say that yesterday?
No.
Okay.
So let's go back over.
Okay, let's go back.
So Mrs. Brophy, don't ask questions. Mr. Overstreet, don't answer questions.
Sorry.
So yesterday, you stated that you remembered a time being in that area and you were writing. There was a white van. There was a man going back and forth between the white van and some other location. You assumed that he was working on the van. It was distracting to you and that you decided to leave. Do you remember that? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. Your attorney then asked you if that was on June 2nd.
And I said I did not know.
Right. So if you do not know, you have no memory of driving around downtown on the morning of June 2nd. How can you sit here today and say that I was driving around writing?
Because if I was down there, that's what I was doing. And you're right. I stand corrected that I should have answered the question differently and said I don't know. But I do know, based upon the timestamps, that I was down there an hour before Dan died, and that I was only down there for 6 minutes or less from the time that he signed into the building
Right.
until you see me again leaving the area.
Right. That 6 minutes,
Mhm.
you just happened to be in front of the Culinary Institute during that time.
No,
Sorry,
I
so
wasn't.
basically she was sitting for him. Once she knew that he was safely inside, she went in and shot him, and then she came back out and drove away. She's basically just explaining what she did.
Did you see the video where you can see your van turning off of 17th onto Jefferson at 7:28 a.m.?
I did see that, but that doesn't mean I was in front of the Culinary Institute. That means I would have come up from another street to have gotten there.
But you're not seen on any other cameras until that moment.
But as you all testified, if there's a train, you can't see when people cross Madison. So I could have been, and what I actually think I was, if this is having thought about it for a while, is in another parking lot off Madison at that point. So I can say at 7:28, I definitely turned the van and was driving there, and we all saw it, but I have no idea. And I know I wasn't parked in front of the building. So what I would have been is riding someplace else and coming around. Now I'm doing this based upon putting stuff back together, not based upon actual memory.
Right? You said you know that you wouldn't have been parked in front of the building. How would you know that?
Because I would have gone inside, because I would have said, "Hi, Dan, how are you?" Because when
Okay, I just have to say that earlier in the point, she said something the total opposite, that like she wouldn't just go in. He's working, she's working, they have things to do. She wouldn't just like pop in. He's at work. So now she's saying the literal opposite again because expedience.
Dan came out of the building, he would have said, "Hey, Nancy, how are you? You know, we're not foreigners. We know each other."
How do you know you didn't go in the building?
I know I didn't go in the building because I didn't kill Dan. You know, I know that for a fact.
If you have no memory, how do you know you didn't go in the building?
You know, I'm reconstructing this, but I'm reconstructing this based upon what I know in my heart. And what I know in my heart is the reason why I have no memory is because I was stunned by the fact Dan was dead. And I wouldn't have been stunned if I'd been in the building and shot him.
I didn't suggest that you did go in to shoot him. What I'm suggesting and asking
Okay.
is, did you just go in the building? And how would you know if you didn't?
I agree that, but he wasn't part of my focus that morning. My focus was on my story and getting it out and getting it done, you know. And Dan is at work. You know, your wife doesn't drop in to see you at work just because she's driving by. You know, she assumes you're working. I assume Dan is working.
You did it 2 weeks prior.
I did it for a specific purpose, which was to go to the bathroom.
Right. So Miss Brophy,
Okay, sorry. That's the point at which she literally just said the opposite thing. She literally just said the opposite thing, that if she was there, she would have gone in to say hi. And now she's just saying, well, I wouldn't go in to say hi because he's busy working. Yes, but no, but yes, but no, but no, but yes, but no, but yes, but what's her name? What's her name, Jem? Give me the name. No, but yeah, but no, but from Little Britain. Vicky. Come on, Jem. I know you know.
would you agree that it's possible that you went into the OCI on the morning of June 2nd to use the bathroom?
No, I wouldn't.
Impossible.
I would say it was impossible,
Even though you have no memory of it.
even though I have no memory of it.
With the numbly family.
Where did you normally go to get Starbucks?
It depended on where I go.
Vicky Pollard. It's Vicky Pollard from Little Britain who does the no, but yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but thing.
Was going that morning. If I was going to McMinnville, there's a Starbucks as I drive down 217 that I can hop off on. If I was going to Oregon City, if I was going to Oregon City, what I actually did was I didn't stop for Starbucks because there was a Starbucks in the Fred Meyers where I was going. So I would have gone there. If I was at home, there's a Starbucks on Beaverton Hillsdale Highway right by Jesuit High School. There's a Starbucks on Hall where it intersects with right across from the Beaverton Mall. Those are the two I tend to go to occasionally. But if I have time and I'm going to sit there and write, then I usually go to the one at 17th and Canyon, which is just the other side.
Other side of 26.
Right. No, the other side of
Or, I'm sorry,
217.
217. That's what. other side of 270 from your house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so have you taken a look at your bank records?
I have not.
In preparation for this trial, you haven't seen your bank records?
Well, I saw them months and months ago.
And you've heard testimony that you go to Starbucks quite a bit.
I do.
I think somebody said almost $1,000 in a year or something like that.
Yeah, I was shocked by that figure too.
I think we all would be. But there's no charge for Starbucks on the morning of June 2nd.
Yes, but if you go through my bank records, you will see there's no charge for Starbucks a lot of days when I know that I had coffee. You know, if I had cash, I could have paid cash. Keep in mind that I don't have my purse with me because I'm not carrying a purse. I'm not wearing a bra, so I don't have a credit card with me. I don't have my phone with me. So I would have had cash and just given it to them.
It makes more sense that you'd have cash over a card?
It makes more sense if I don't have a bra than I don't have a card with me.
And you do agree you left your phone at home that morning?
I agree I wasn't wearing a bra, so my phone wouldn't have been in my bra.
Right. So you're just this day is the day that you paid cash at Starbucks?
I pay cash at Starbucks a fair amount.
So in the morning, if Dan doesn't bring you coffee, it would be normal for you to get up, not fully get dressed, run to Starbucks, use cash, use a card, who cares, right? Go back home and right.
Mm-hmm.
That was normal.
That would be a normal morning.
Okay.
On a day when I wasn't committed to doing something else.
Right. But on June 2nd, now you're saying that morning you got up. Well, let's take a step back.
Okay.
The night before, your testimony was that you went to sleep late or went to bed late.
Mm-hmm.
And when you went to bed, you went up to that attic.
Yes.
And Dan was already in bed.
Yes.
And he was asleep.
Yes.
And the reason you went to bed late was because of a leak? Is that the reason you went to bed late, or it just happened to be?
No, I frequently went to bed much later than Dan. Dan went to bed early because he got up early.
Dan went to bed early because he was the breadwinner, and I stayed up late because I didn't give a crap about getting up in time to make him a cup of coffee before he went to work. I preferred to stay up late and sleep in so that he could serve me in the morning before he went to work. I think that's pretty clear.
Okay. What time did he go to bed that night?
I don't know.
Okay. What time did you go to bed?
I don't know that.
Well, you said it was late. What's your reference?
Well, it was later than Dan. My reference point was that there was water on the floor.
Okay.
And the water on the floor, I was trying to clean it up enough that, we didn't step in it in the middle of the night and didn't make it worse.
And which sink are you talking about?
The sink in the bathroom upstairs. So my bedroom is long and narrow. And right off of my bedroom to the left is a bathroom. And as I stepped in there, we go from carpeting to sheet goods, and I could feel the water under my feet.
Okay.
Oh, I get it. The bedroom was long and narrow. I get it.
I think it was maybe just a little confusing. There was some testimony about a problem with the kitchen sink. But you're not talking about the kitchen sink.
No, and I thought that was not. I thought it was confusing, but I also thought at that point I was probably making a point rather than pointing to the right sink, just pointing to a sink in general.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to make sure we're talking about the right sink.
Right.
I just wasn't clear on that. So you're talking about the sink with the leak that was of concern on June 1st was in the bathroom upstairs. Okay. So you kind of clean it up. You go to bed late. It sounds like maybe you woke up at some point in the night.
I wake up every night in the middle of the night.
Do you have a specific recollection of waking up in the middle of the night?
Nope.
That night? Okay. And by that, you mean like you have to use the restroom or something?
Or, I really don't sleep very well at all. And I particularly don't sleep when I'm wound up. And when I'm working on a story, I'm wound up. So I'm just not a great sleeper anymore.
So when you wake up, was Dan already up?
Yes. Dan was standing over the sink in the bathroom.
And what was he doing?
He said, why do we have all these towels in the sink? And so that was what we talked about, was the fact that I think there's a leak, and I had felt underneath, but I couldn't feel it, on the, whatever that long pipe's called, that, he said, well, I'll get something, he said, I'll get something, or maybe I know he got something because I saw it. I'm not sure which way this is the truth here. But when I dealt with it later, there was a white bucket underneath, but the last thing I saw.
I think she thinks she's in an improv class, where you say yes and, right? That's how you keep the improv going, is you say yes and.
Him doing was taking the wet towels down the stairs.
That's the last time you saw him?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about a leak. He walked downstairs with some wet towels.
Mm-hmm.
You stayed in bed.
Oh, no. This is where I got up and threw on a minimum amount of clothes and ran to get coffee.
I thought your testimony was you don't remember going to get coffee.
I don't remember going to get coffee, but I do remember throwing on some clothes and leaving the house.
That wasn't your testimony yesterday.
That I didn't throw on clothes and leave the
You said
house?
you got dressed, but you said you didn't have any recollection of leaving to go get coffee.
Well, I think we're splitting hairs here. I don't remember getting
I
coffee.
can agree to disagree on that, but okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's another one of my favorite little moments in the thing where he just kind of very simply wrests control back from her with her little agree to disagree comment. Or her sorry, it was her splitting hairs comment.
Which is it, Ms. Brophy? Do you remember going to get coffee or?
I do not remember getting coffee. I remember putting on clothes and heading downstairs. That's almost always a prelude to I'm going to get coffee.
And Dan was already gone by the time you got downstairs?
Oh no, Dan would have been there for quite a bit longer. I was expecting to get coffee and be back before he was out of the shower and dressed and everything else. You know.
You see him?
She was downtown before he was, right? So I think she got dressed and got her coffee and she went straight downtown. And was like waiting for him to get there so that she could then follow him in and shoot him. That's what I think.
No, he's in the basement. He took the wet towels down.
Okay. So he's still there, but you didn't see him.
That he's still there.
So now you remember you went downstairs, you got dressed, you went downstairs.
Okay, and I have a real problem with this, and I have to apologize to you because what I do is I reconstruct based upon what I know would have happened, not what actually happened. So allow me to apologize for the fact that I am misleading you here, and that was not intentional. What I would tell you is I don't remember running into Dan, but if I would have, I think
What I would tell you is basically is her saying the story that I am going with is
I would have remembered it. He's downstairs, I'm assuming, dealing with the towels. I'm assuming that most mornings I'm right back in bed before he ever leaves.
Okay, so what time did you leave?
I have no idea.
What time did you get back?
I have no idea. What I know is the last time somebody saw me was I was in a video at 7:28.
Right. So that morning you wake up, you get dressed, you go downstairs, you leave, you don't have any recollection as to where you went.
No,
And you don't know how long you were gone.
I know from your
Your memory.
memory. No,
You have no idea how long you were gone.
no, I have none.
You know now that your phone was not with you.
Yes,
When you got back, was Dan still there?
no. But I couldn't even tell you. Wait, once again, I'm filling in for blanks. I don't know that Dan was there or not there. What I remember is that I was sitting in bed writing when Maxine called. There's a huge little blank in there.
I know you jumped ahead with your lawyer. We're going to go slower.
Okay.
So you assume you go get coffee, get home. You don't know if Dan's still there or not.
I don't remember if Dan's still there or
Don't
not.
remember. You do remember some point you're back in bed.
Yes, because Maxine called and I was in bed writing.
And what time was that?
I don't remember that either. Maxine called, what, 9:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there?
Sure. You remember that?
I remember Maxine calling.
And you remember what she told you?
I do.
You remember how you responded?
Yes,
And then you remember calling Dan?
yes,
You remember trying to text Dan?
yes,
You remember him not answering or responding to your text?
I do.
You then called Maxine Borcherding back.
Right,
You remember that conversation?
right,
You got the phone with her. You called Karen Brophy.
right.
You remember that conversation?
I do.
You remember after that you got dressed,
Yes, well, yes, yes.
you got your phone,
Grabbed all my stuff.
got your stuff, went downtown, drove downtown. And when you drove downtown, did you take the normal way that you would drive when you were going to the Culinary Institute?
I'm going to say that technically, I don't really remember, but based upon habit, I would have bet money on it.
Okay. So the same road that we see you coming in on Jefferson earlier in the morning, that's the route that you most likely would have taken. Okay. So when you came in, when you get to that roundabout, did you go down Columbia and turn on 17th?
Yes, and I parked at Potluck in the Park.
Tricky here, I want to show you a map. showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit 95. I talked about the roundabout.
Mhm.
When you came in here, did you come down to 17th and park on this corner right here?
I didn't park on the corner. I
Or
parked
in here?
right in there. Yes.
There's like a few spots there.
Well, they're delivery driveway, and I don't think they think they're spots. I just created a spot.
So you didn't come in, drive around Lincoln, and come up Jefferson, right?
If we're talking about, after Maxine called, well, the video shows I'm down there another time.
Or to the point in the morning where you talked to Maxine, you talked to this
Right.
lady.
Right. And so I would have gone exactly the way you showed and parked look in the park.
So you came down here, turned on 17th, parked somewhere in here.
Right.
At Potluck Park.
Right.
Okay. And then where did you walk to from there?
Can I use the pointer?
Yes, please.
All right. So there was police tape. Sorry. There was a police tape ran from this corner right here across the street so that you could not turn either onto 17th or continue on. Right in the middle of the street was a police car. And I walked from here to the police car.
Okay. And you said you interacted with a police officer at that point?
Yeah.
A male police officer?
Yes.
And he directed you to go somewhere?
I said, I'm Nancy Brophy. And he said, wait here. And he said, I want you to wait over there by that building, which that building was the corner of directly opposite of OCI.
Okay.
And I stood over there, and he brought other officers.
Okay. Is that when Officer Wells came and gave you a hug?
When Officer Wells gave me a hug, we had walked from the corner. I would gone around the corner and come up 17th. And so we were probably, real frankly, right about where the ad is on the sign.
Uh-huh.
And they had said, we want you to stand back over here so that you're out of the range of the camera from the press. And I said, okay. And I'm crying. And that's when Officer Wells gave me a hug.
Okay. And did she tell you anything?
She told me she would like to be married to a chef.
Okay. Did she tell you anything else?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. And did you speak with the tips volunteer before you went into the van or after?
I did not speak with them before.
Okay.
And I was in the van and they escorted her in.
Do you recall seeing Brian Wilkie and,
Yes.
okay, where was he?
They were across Madison, and there was Brian Wilkie and I know Woody Bailey was with him. There were 2 or 3 other people who were kind of all standing together over here.
And you recall when the detectives walked up to you and said they wanted to speak with you in the van?
It was in that period of time.
And you remember getting in the van?
Yes.
You remember where the detectives sat?
Yes.
You remember having a conversation that was recorded with them?
Yes.
You don't necessarily remember all the conversation?
I would tell you it's spotty, but I've heard that tape enough that I can tell you what was on the tape.
Is there anything inaccurate that you were reporting to the police?
Not intentionally.
Not what I asked.
When the police said to me, where were you this morning? I told them where I was. And I told them where I was based upon the fact that when Maxine called me, that's where I was.
In fact, what you told the police were you were in bed.
Okay?
You woke up when Dan came upstairs.
Yes.
That he came upstairs to take a shower.
Yes.
That after he got out of the shower, you two discussed the leak.
I told him after the shower.
Well, maybe, I don't know that you specified exactly when, but.
Well, we're on veracity here, so we need to be accurate.
Well, you tell me.
I don't think I told him it was after the shower.
Okay. Was it before?
I did. I think my memory is that I don't remember if he'd taken a shower or not. That's why I was surprised you said that.
Okay. But you told the police that.
You could have been.
Well, you said you heard the tape.
I've heard the tape.
Okay. You told him that you took a shower. Sorry, that Mr. Brophy took a shower.
I think I told him he came upstairs to take a shower. I don't think I told him he took a shower.
You said that after the shower, he got dressed and left. Do you remember that?
No, but I may have said it.
And you said that he left at 7:05 to 7:10-ish. Remember that?
Yes, but that was based upon when he always left.
Okay. But you just testified to something completely different.
Here's the thing is that, no, I'm still on the same thing. I testified to the fact that I was trying to help the police so that they had an idea of what Dan did in the morning. I didn't think this whole thing had a damn thing to do with me. I thought it had to do with what was Dan doing? What can you do? What can you tell us to help us so we know what his routine is?
So was what you told the police?
But what difference does that make? Like, whatever they were asking you, isn't the truth the truth? Either way? Like, come on. Does she think we're stupid? Yes, I know she does. Yes, you don't have to answer that.
Police inaccurate?
It could have been, but at that point I was screaming in my brain, Dan is dead, Dan is dead. And if I was inaccurate, it was not to mislead them.
Do you remember going into quite a bit of detail with the detectives, even regarding Dan's accident the prior week when he cut his hand?
I could have, yes.
Heard that on the tape, though?
Mm-hmm.
You've seen the video, heard the testimony. You would agree that the critical moments that you've been asked about, your responses have been you don't remember.
Critical moments that I have been asked about, my response, I don't remember, is the most accurate thing I can tell you.
Right, but at the critical moments that you were there in the area, at the same time that someone happens to be shooting your husband within a 6-minute window with the exact type of gun that you own and is now mysteriously missing.
That's your version of what happened. That is not my version. The only thing I know for sure is I did not kill Dan. And I have no problem with that. I know I didn't kill Dan with the gun that was put together, the gun that wasn't put together, or the slide that we can't find. But, you know, when your husband dies, everything around you grinds to a halt. And what I told the police said, this is a death notification. But it wasn't a death notification. It was an in-depth interview, as seen by the fact you're bringing up every moment of it as we're coming back. And at death notification, they would have said, we can see you're upset. Let us schedule an appointment. Let us come back and see you this afternoon. Let us do something different. Instead, they hammered away at me with questions.
Sorry, but wouldn't you want to answer questions? Wouldn't you want to help the police as fast as possible so that they can get on after the killer? Wouldn't you want to help immediately, right away, rather than be told to go home and take a nap and they'll come and see you later?
Hammer. And I can tell you this, I tried to help them the absolute best I could. I tried to give them what I knew was his routine. I tried to help them in any way I could. And the fact that you have managed to construct a case against me out of that is you've constructed a case. But I think your case is held together with, real frankly, Band-Aids. You know.
Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think I'm done. Probably more than I want to be.
A very, 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 very tiny window of self-reflection there. Very nice. That momentary smirk, chilling, and then a spew of blabber. Yeah, she thinks she's, yeah. They live so much in the moment, right? And they're so focused on winning that like every interaction is a like a transaction or a contest or whatever, and they have to win it. So they're like, and whatever happened before and whatever's coming next doesn't matter. It's now. It's the expedience of winning in the moment. I'm done. Yes, she is. Yeah, Jim. She says she makes a really great statement coming up very soon that is beautifully, beautifully damning, because you can't say something that you're not thinking.
Isn't it possible with your memory problems of the morning that you actually went into the building and shot your husband and you just don't remember?
No, it is not. No, it is not. Because the one thing I knew I had a strong thing is the last time I saw Dan. I see Dan every day. I talk to him every day. This is not a man I would have shot because I had a memory issue. It seems to me like if I had shot him, I would know every detail. You know, I could have told you all sorts of things that was true. I did not shoot my husband, and I don't know even how to defend myself against the truth. You know.
Sketch that. She doesn't know how to defend herself against the truth. Can't say it if you're not thinking it.
No.
We've talked a lot about Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about the devastation to his family,
Yes.
to the community. And you've seen the devastation in person, right? Multiple times, over and over. All the people reaching out to you, the memorials, and the testimony in court.
Yes.
You would agree that up until the time that you took the stand, you didn't really show a lot of emotion in this trial.
No, I wouldn't agree with that at all. The fact I didn't cry doesn't mean that I didn't show emotion or that I didn't have emotion. It's mean I didn't do the overt thing. What I would tell you is it wouldn't have mattered if I'd cried or not, because if I had cried, you would be sitting here saying to me, do you agree that you were overly dramatic? So I don't think there's a win-win in this conversation for me.
Right? What a perfect thing to say. Right? I don't know how to win this conversation, because that's what she's here to do, right? She wants to win every single interaction. Yeah, you just have to listen to them, and they give themselves away all the time. Hey, Llama Pajamas, nice to see you. She does. She gets really pissy.
You chose to take the stand.
I chose to take the stand.
Explain your side of the story.
Tell my side of the story, which I might point out I have been absolutely quiet about from the day Dan died to now. I have not had press interviews. I have not done any of the things that where I could have told my story early.
Oh, well, maybe we should give her a prize instead of sending her to prison. Clearly, she deserves an award of some kind for her, self-control. Yeah, like Joel Guy with his nose in the air through the whole trial. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great. It's very, very helpful that they have no self-awareness, because, they end up convicted, right?
Okay. When I talk about emotion or lack thereof while you're sitting over there at council table listening to testimony, you agree that you actually laughed on quite a few occasions. Is that right?
The fact that when I think about Dan, it still gives me joy. I do laugh. I love people who come up and say to me, and I've had several people who've said this in the last 4 years, Dan was my teacher. I loved him. And I said, tell me stories about him, because that gives me joy. Yes, I find that, am I brokenhearted? I'm brokenhearted. Am I delighted to hear stories from people who loved him as much as I did? Yeah, I am.
Hearing those stories make you emotional as well.
Talking about Dan, period, makes me emotional. But a lot of the people who came up and cried, when they weren't crying for Dan, they were crying for themselves. I had a horrible experience happen to me. I'm crying, and I am empathetic to that. But when Karen Brophy teared up, my heart broke, because I knew she loved him as much as I did. Yeah. And I knew that she was crying for Dan, not for some other reason.
What about this?
She's talking about referencing here the students that found Dan. When they testified on the stand, they became quite emotional. And I believe there's a prison phone call of her talking crap about these students, saying literally that, right? That, but not in this, whatever, this is as nicely as she can put it, but she's basically saying they were crying for themselves. They just were, they were like crying for themselves. They weren't crying for Dan. It was just about themselves. And she was talking about it very callously on the phone. About the children that found her dead husband that she murdered.
The students that knew Dan and loved him.
The students that knew Dan and loved him didn't testify earlier. Who testified a lot earlier was the instructor, 2 or 3 of the people who had been in the pastry class. And I am grateful to them for the fact they did what they could do. Do not misunderstand me, but I don't think it changed their life. They went back to school the next weekend. They graduated from the program. They weren't testifying they had to have counseling as a result of this. I'm saying the people whose heart were broken, the people who missed Dan and loved him the most, the people who loved him the most, I cry with them, because we know.
Sorry, did you just testify and say that the person who literally tried to save his life was not negatively affected by this?
No, I said she went on with her life. That she didn't. I did not say that. She had a horrible experience. I said I was empathetic to that experience. But I also know that she wasn't crying that day in court because of that. She was crying because she had had a terrible experience and it affected her with bad memories. But it did not stop her life. Her life went on. Her life, she went back to school. She graduated with the program. It stopped my life. It stopped the Brophy's life. There were students he had whose life had stopped, and coworkers he had who were truly, truly brokenhearted.
Ms. Brophy, did you listen to the testimony of Clarenda Perez?
I did, and I've heard it 3 times now. The first time she told me, I cried. this, because she told me in person, every time she's been on the stand, Clorinda Perez has sobbed and sobbed. And I am sympathetic every time she does it. I know she went through a terrible experience, but she's not crying for Dan. She's crying for the terrible experience she had.
You mentioned that. I'm asking about your feelings.
Okay. Let me ask the question again, please.
I would be very interested to know how she knows why that student was crying.
Well, you listened to Clorinda Perez testify about her experience.
Right.
She saw Dan on the ground. She knew CPR. She took it upon herself to try to save his life
Yes.
and failed.
Yes.
She felt that.
Yes.
You saw her tell that story on the stand.
Mm-hmm.
Was absolutely devastated about that experience.
No, I disagree with you entirely on that. I think she had a terrible experience. I think that it was a bone-jarring experience for her. I think she did everything she could, and she was proud of the fact, and I was proud for her that she did everything she could. But when she's crying 5 years after the fact because it was a terrible experience, I think she's crying for the fact she had a horrible experience, not for the fact that Dan Brophy, a man she barely knew, died.
Keep mentioning that. We're going to play what's...
Did you catch that? You keep mentioning that. He's awesome. And she is revealing herself to be an absolute monster, and it's fantastic.
marked as State's Exhibit 116.
Wild.
Yes.
Maybe it isn't spelled out.
I'll play just real briefly and have you identify the voice.
So far, they haven't covered anything.
Who does that sound like?
Well, I'm also looking where it says call to Sarah Gitchell, so I'm assuming that's Sarah Gitchell.
Who's the voice that you hear?
Yes, that's my voice.
That's your voice?
Yes.
This is a phone call that you made to Sarah Gitchell?
Could be, yes. That's what it says.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and go back to the beginning? Play that.
So far, they haven't covered anything that we didn't know. I mean, they have girls who cried today, you know, and I've seen all these little girls. Well, I've seen particularly the Spanish girl cry 3 times now. So, you know, she cries on cue.
Didn't I just say essentially that?
That's your response after hearing these people testify to their experience. That's what you thought about that?
I thought it was interesting that Clorinda Perez, when she told me, did not cry. When she's on the stand, she cries and she sobs and she carries on. I think she had a terrible, terrible experience. That I totally agree with. And I'm sympathetic to that. But I also think she can cry on cue when she gets on stand.
She does seem very sympathetic, doesn't she? Yeah. And like, what's her explanation for why this girl would cry on cue? Like, what's her motivation to pretend to cry or to cry on cue? Why would she do that, though? There's no explanation of why she would do such a thing.
Because she didn't cry when she told me. She told me and I cried. You know, when we went to an event that she came up and said, I am the person who did CPR. And I immediately burst into tears, you know, when she told me the story. And I told her how wonderful I thought she was, you know, that she had done that. But
you seem to be a couple steps ahead of me throughout this.
Sorry.
You're expecting this?
I don't know if expecting that is what I would say, but I'm.
Wow, the posture got really defensive all of a sudden, eh? Really defensive, closing it together like that. It's weird that she tries to defend all of this instead of just saying, I don't know what I was thinking. It was a terrible thing to say. I mean, she could, it's on tape, so they can all hear it. The best she could do is try to contain the damage, but instead she just doubles down like a complete lunatic. Intense lack of self-regulation. Yeah. Oh, what a lunatic.
I'm sorry. I'll try and be quieter.
When you keep saying Clorinda Perez over and over and you keep mentioning her name, in this audio, you don't actually say Clorinda Perez.
Okay.
Is she the one you're referring to when you say the Spanish girl?
I think she is. I don't think the others were Spanish, but they could have been.
Okay. And did you see Clorinda Perez at the farm yard? I'm sorry about the name, but the farmyard memorial in August?
That's where she told me.
Okay. Isn't it true that when she came up to you and tried to talk to you, you actually ignored her?
No, it's not.
Dr. Warford testified and called you a problem solver. Would you agree with that?
I think that's a great observation, Billie Jean. She stopped seeing like it's like the full-on mask off moment that she had there regarding the young women who tried to save her husband's life. Just wild. Anyway, I'm just going to feed the dog, so I'm just going to shut the camera and the microphone off for a minute and feed the dog so he doesn't expire from starvation.
I think on my feet, yes.
It's true. You're not a lawyer, right?
No,
You got a lot of lawyers in your family,
true.
including some of them that practice criminal defense.
Yes.
Ms. Brophy, do you know where I can go in the metro area to rent night vision goggles?
I have no idea.
You know if there's a place I can go where I can just try them out, handle them?
I have no idea.
But you bought a pair.
I had a person who worked for me who took a loan from me, and that was what he used for collateral. He paid the loan back. He got the night vision goggles back.
Sorry, the line of questioning with your lawyer was things that you had purchased in order to further your writing.
It could have, yes, I can see that, but in a way, I purchased it. If he had not come back and reclaimed it, they would have been mine.
We heard from a few of your writer friends that are quite successful. Lots of published books and make a decent living. That's not true for you though, right?
No, I started, most of those people started being published about 5 years earlier than I did. And I have not been successful. I have sold books, but I have not sold enough books to make me break out and have people say, hey, this is an author I remember. But considering that with the advent of Amazon, that 10,000 books get published every month, it's now harder to do that than it's been in the past.
Right. And you're actually a self-published author.
I am.
Right? Have you ever been published besides yourself?
Yes, I have.
What book was that?
It was a book called Sex in the Office. It was published by Black Lace Publishing, and it was part of an anthology.
When was that?
Uh, 2005, maybe 2006, somewhere in there.
Not much success after that?
I would say publishing changed, and I would say it differently. I would say I didn't get into romance writers with the idea that of being published. That was never my goal. My goal was to write because I like to write. Friends like Sir Luke said, no, you need to write toward getting published. And we were friends long enough that I wrote toward getting published.
When did you start writing?
I can't remember a time I haven't written.
Whole life?
Whole life.
And when we talk about being published, there's been some questions to you about this Witches book or Witches trilogy that you wrote. In this email that you got. That was from a publisher?
That was from an agent.
An agent. So not a publisher.
That's right.
There's an agent asking to see more of the writing so they could determine whether they were going to be interested in purchasing it, correct?
That's true.
Nobody
No. They weren't. No. An agent acts as your go-between. A lot of editors won't look at your work without an agent.
So nobody was actually telling you they were buying that book?
Nobody was telling me that, no.
How many people do you think you sent that manuscript to?
I didn't send the manuscript to many people, but I queried a lot of people.
You didn't send that manuscript to?
At best, I sent a chapter. Agents don't want to have you send their manuscript unrequested. You send a little bit of the writing, they look at it and say, yes, we're interested in this story. No, we're not.
I'm not an author, so I don't necessarily, I might be using the wrong terminology, so feel free to correct me. You sent a sample, a piece of the story to how many people do you think?
Oh, I probably sent it out to 10 to 20.
You got rejected from all of them.
Yes.
You got this one email about somebody who may be interested.
Right.
You didn't respond to that email.
Yes, I did.
Where's that?
I sent them the manuscript.
Where's that?
What do you mean? Where is it? It went magically by email to her. A few months later, if you look down the road, you'll see that she sent me a rejection letter. And I would guess, based upon what I know about this, that it would take her 90 days to do that.
You testified yesterday that you didn't know anything about guns. So you had to do some research.
That's true.
And that began in 2017?
2017. That began with this particular story in 2017.
You actually know quite a bit about guns before that, right?
I wrote heroes that operated with guns, but where I would get into trouble because I didn't write in depth about guns. Like, for example, in 2015, I did a lot of research on dirty bombs and on plastic explosives like C4. And so you research what you need. I hadn't really needed, I could pass guns off by throwing out equipment stuff. I could talk about flashbangs and I could talk about this. So it sounded like my guys were in that. Romance writers don't need a technical description. I'm not Tom Clancy. What they need is enough believable things that they can get by. Now, when you're writing a book about guns and putting it together, you need information about guns. But for the most part, and in that book, I needed information about how C4 worked and what a string of pearls were and things like that. I needed information. I've researched Navy SEALs because several of my heroes were leaving the military and they had been Navy SEALs. You
Right.
know?
But when you say thanks to the police, like, oh, the shooter thingy, I mean, you have more knowledge than that.
I have more knowledge than that, but the shooter thingy is when your husband has just died and your words are leaving you. I would have said the shooter thingy when I was stressed. I talk to myself in that video. I say, Nancy, this. I don't talk to myself in third person. I haven't gone over the bin that far. And yet I listen to myself at that thing and I think, whoa, I was stressed as hell that I'm talking to myself in third person.
2015, you wrote and self-published a book called The Wrong Husband, correct?
I did.
On page 231 of that book, it says, Austin counted to 25, slid out from his hiding place and fired 6 shots into the body on the bed. At the 7th squeeze of the trigger, the gun clicked. No more bullets.
Okay.
That sound right?
Yes.
You wrote that?
Yes.
In 2017, you wrote and self-published a book called The Wrong Seal.
Yes.
On page 178 of that book, it says, slowly, she eased the gun out of her pocket and propped the barrel on the branch. Each shot had to count. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
Something you wrote?
Yes, but you notice none of that required any in-depth knowledge.
In January 2015, you self-published a book called Hell on the Heart.
I did.
On page 4064, it says, the gun fired. The force of the projectile entering her body rocketed her backward. All that?
I'm pretty sure there was not 4,000 words in that, 4,000 pages in that book.
I'm sorry. I might have the page numbers wrong. I'm sure you're right. I don't think you wrote that lengthy of a book. Also in that book, you wrote, instead, a darkened window descended and the barrel of a gun sparkled in the sunlight and the shot was loud. Does that sound right?
Could be.
Later on in that book, you actually talk about a Glock specifically. You say, Dare emerged, his Glock in his hands, but pointed toward the ground. Does that sound right?
Yes. And as long as we're on that, you ask or somebody asked.
The question.
Sorry.
Literally, who the hell does she think she is? Oh, yeah. And as long as we're on that, I just want to, you are on the stand in the courtroom in your trial for the first-degree murder of your husband. Pull yourself together.
Also in that book, you talk about a Glock again.
Mm-hmm.
Instinctively, John counted each shot while pulling his Glock free of his shoulder holster.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As a writer, is it true that you spend a lot of time thinking about murder?
Oh, yeah. When you're romantic suspense, somebody's dying.
You also consequently think about police procedure quite a bit. Is that right?
Yes and no. I mean, I wrote that and I know what you're quoting me on, but I think less about police procedure and more about, because with the exception of only one book, do I really talk about police. Most of my stories were frankly about the same thing, but police procedure is not, I don't go through it step by step. The only book that I have about cops is The Wrong Cop.
Right. It wasn't necessarily talking about what you were writing about. Talking about your thoughts.
I know I don't think a ton about police procedure. For one thing, I would have known more if I was paying attention in this case. This case has taught me a lot that I will never be able to use again, but it has taught me a lot about police procedure I had no idea about.
You've obtained books regarding police procedure, is that right?
I have research books on any number of things, but police procedure, I don't really think would be the thing. I've attended classes where they talked about police procedure.
Right. You took that class with Ms. Smith out in Washington County?
They didn't talk about police procedure then. I mean, there may have been some references to it, but they talked about what does the sheriff's county do and what does each department do and how are they working within the community. It was an interesting class. It taught me a lot of things, but it was for the benefit of the Washington County public relations, that shows we are working in a different way than you think we're working. And it was very effective because I was dazzled by some of the things that they said.
And as a romance writer and thinking about murder and police procedure, you also consider what motives people might have. Is that correct?
Yes, because I don't think people murder willy-nilly unless you're a professional hitman. I think lots of people who say things like, I would never murder anybody. And I say, it's between you and your child. It's him or it's your child. What would you do? And I would bet money that that's all of a sudden their ideas of I would never murder anybody might radically change.
Do you agree that financial reasons is a big reason people might murder?
Yes, but I don't ever write about that. I mean, I think financial is a big reason.
Yeah. And do you agree that divorce is expensive and may not result in you getting anything or much?
Divorce is expensive. I don't think that is a mystery to anybody here, but I don't think that it might result in you're not getting anything. Real frankly, I suspect that you will get half of what you have,
Sure. And as a romance writer and thinking about these things, you know that people might consider using guns or knives or poison to commit a murder. Is that right?
Weapons, yeah.
And you also would, if somebody were to ask you, you advise against them of considering a hitman because you're bringing somebody else into your
How many Lifetime stories have we seen where the girl hires a hitman to kill her husband, and lo and behold, the hitman turns out to be an FBI agent? Woohoo! I think that's a stomped-on theme.
Right.
Yeah, the glibness, right? She just talks about all this stuff as though she's not on the stand for the murder of her beloved husband. He does an amazing job considering how rude and combative she is, boss lady? I think he figured out early on that she would sink herself if he gave her enough rope. She would obviously hang herself, not sink herself. But yeah. And maybe he I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of thing that would have me kind of enraged, but he's just so understated with his comments, like the thing about, yeah, so you keep saying. He's very, very good at it. Yeah, thank God she never reproduced, right? Well, she probably would have, God knows what she would have done to her kids. Terrible things, no doubt.
You actually find it easier to wish people dead instead of actually killing them, correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so much easier to say than to actually do anything, because by the time you're over being annoyed at them, you're over thinking they, need to have bodily harm.
My last question to you, Ms. Brophy, is if there was one thing that you know about murder, is it that anyone is capable of doing it?
I absolutely believe that. And I believe that because, once again, if it's your child or the person in front of you, 10 to 1, you will find yourself capable of murder. I think most people don't murder for flimsy reasons. I think people get pushed into a corner where they have no other options. I think people murder because they're protecting somebody they love. I think people murder, well, there's some mercy killings perhaps where people murder to save the person they love pain, but I think that's rare. I think people murder in rage. I don't think people murder because they say, well, we'll just sneak down and do this quickly. I think if you're going to murder somebody, 10 to 1, that person knows that you are not happy with them. I don't think that should come as a mystery, to anybody.
What do you think she thinks she's achieving with this insane display of ridiculousness here? And also, I mean, she shot Dan in the back first, and then she turned him over and shot him in the chest. So presumably, he saw his killer.
I don't think people murder willy-nilly out of the just because, yeah, financial reason is a big reason. But going back to my case, there's not enough financial reason there to make it. I do better with Dan alive financially than I do with Dan dead. There's no financial gain here. We had solved our problem. I turned the book into an editor and I said, well, they had a problem here in October of 2017, but they had solved it. But then she murdered him in 2018 when they had solved their financial problem. Where is the motivation, I would ask you? An editor would laugh and say, I think you need to work harder on this story. You have kind of a big hole in it. I think people murder out of anger more than anything else.
I'm going to ask everyone to stop there. It's now noon. We'll take our lunch break and we'll be back at 1:30.
Well, I really wish that the judge had not done that, because she was, I mean, it doesn't matter, she got convicted anyway, but she was right in the middle of giving herself even more away than she already did. But yeah, what a crazy cross-examination. It's not over. This is the end of this video, and it's after 7 here, so it's been going for over 3 hours, so I think I'm gonna call it a day. And I will maybe finish up tomorrow. There's not a ton left, but I thought maybe we could watch the closing arguments as well, because those usually give just to give a good kind of roundup of what argument the state is using and what argument I don't think her attorney can shut her up, can they, Elizabeth? Like, how can the attorney shut her up? Was she going to object to her own client, right? I don't think, like, there's no... I don't think that's going to happen, right? That they're going to object to their own client. I don't think that it's... yeah, I'm with you, Chamara. I don't want it to end either, but it's already been going for 3 hours and I'm getting tired. Yeah, she ripped her headphones off there, right? Yeah, he got her well and truly riled up, and she did most of it. She did most of it to herself. Yeah, hi. Yeah, good to see you too, Jim. I'm always glad to see you when you can make it. I'm always glad to see everybody. I think we have a grand old time over here. Everybody is so smart and insightful and funny and charming. We don't seem to get any trolls. Everybody is supportive and kind to each other. I just really always have a good time when I do a live and get to see you all. So thank you all back. Yeah, so I think I'll just carry on tomorrow, same time, same station. And we can finish up with Nancy Brophy, because yeah, she's really fun. I think that's most of the really fun stuff, but still. I like the closing. I always like the closing arguments. French. I grew up in Quebec. Well, I was born in BC, but then we moved to Quebec for like 10 years, and then Ontario for a couple of years, and then back to BC again. But I grew up with the doing French immersion. But yeah, Little Whiskers, you're out in that part of the world, right? I was in Toronto for a couple of years. I was in Montreal for about 8 years, and I was like 4 when we moved to Quebec from Vancouver. But I was born in like small town BC, but we never stayed there. I was literally months old when we moved to Vancouver. The French, yeah, it kind of does stay in there, especially if you get it in there when you're a kid, Billie Jean. You're in Alaska. Oh, right. Nice, Elizabeth. Yeah, we're your neighbors, and you're right across the pond from Russia there. Little Whiskers in Ontario, yeah. Northern Michigan. Oh, okay, so you're right close to Canada, eh, Mary? Right across the bridge there. We share the Great Lakes, no? The Lake Michigan. Hi, Fiona. Nice to see you. From your back porch? Yes, boss lady. Thank you so much again. I saw that you were saying that your thing was buffering. I thought we'd lost you, but apparently not. So yes, I will also say goodbye. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and I will look forward to seeing everybody next time. I'm going to love you and leave you. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, everybody. Mary, Beth, all the regulars, Ruth Ann, Billie Jean, Little Whiskers, Jem, Boss Lady, everybody. You know who you are. If I forget to mention you, it's not because I don't love you. See you next time. Bye.